Good morning. Honorable Premier, Honorable Deputy Premier, Honorable Leader of the Opposition, Honorable Ministers and Members of Parliament, hardworking parliamentary staff, senior civil service officers, youth parliamentarians, other distinguished guests, and parents, boys and girls. It gives me great pleasure to welcome all of you to the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association's 14th Youth Parliament today. We are pleased that you could be with us, and hopefully it's a welcome break from your usual Saturday morning chores. I am also delighted to welcome Mrs. Kathy Jackson, the chair of the Duke of Edinburgh Awards program. Young people, it's an excellent program for young people, and if you have not been involved, you should see her afterwards and talk to her about it. Our Paige here, who's really our Deputy Sergeant at Arms, is a former awardee of that program, and it does a world of good for young people. We are proud to participate here today, as this is the first event, first youth parliament of this new autonomous status of being a parliament. This is an event that should have taken place in early March as part of the Commonwealth Day celebrations. That's when it usually is done. However, this year's Youth Parliament had to be postponed to accommodate the general elections. We here in the Cayman Islands branch of the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association are very pleased to welcome each and every one of the 22 young people participating in today's Youth Parliament. They have put in long hours in preparation for this event, cutting into their school and study time. Many of them are facing examinations and had to take time from studying and preparing for those exams. Their participation today is a testament to the dedication and the seriousness with which they have approached their involvement with the Youth Parliament program. We are grateful to our youth parliamentarians this year for staying the course and remaining ready to participate in this event. We really, really appreciate your efforts, you being here. As the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association states on its website, and I quote, "Young people are of great importance to the future of the world. Nowhere is this more apparent than in the Commonwealth, where they form approximately 30% of the population, a demographic of over 1 billion people. As such, the CPA believes passionately in engaging with young people to ensure they are effective future leaders," end of quote. The Youth Parliament is an important program for promoting and engaging with future leaders. The Cayman Islands chapter of the CPA has embraced this concept enthusiastically over the years. And in between 2001 and 2005, the first Youth Parliament was launched. I am old enough to have had my granddaughter be a part of this great event, this good program. And I know she has said to me how much she enjoyed it and how much she learned. She don't listen to me as a politician, okay? So she learned things for herself. That's good. At the same time, it gives us who have been elected for some time and are active parliamentarians an insight into the thinking, the views, the opinions, and recommendations of our young people. They may take on the mantle of leadership in the Cayman Islands one day as the politicians of the future. From choosing the topics for the two motions they will be debating shortly, and their research into the topics, to the positions they will espouse in the debates, their engagement gives us a perception of what our young people want and expect from their leaders today. I'm always glad to listen to those debates when we can. This is a golden opportunity for us to hear firsthand what our young people are thinking about some of the issues and conditions our islands face today. As was mentioned in the Census 2021 launch on Wednesday by the Premier and the Deputy Premier, without factual information, government cannot make informed decisions, and therefore everyone needs to be counted. Similarly, knowing the views of our youth on topics that affect our communities will keep the government and the principals in the private sector alike to be better informed. As one of the great United States President Franklin D. Roosevelt once commented, we cannot always build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future. The CPA's Youth Parliament is one such attempt. We look keenly forward to the nature and caliber of the debates from our youth parliamentarians. I'm sure my fellow members of Parliament are all eager to hear these two important motions, and we want to thank the parents and guardians of these young people who, of course, have to work with them and help them get prepared for today. I do want to offer thanks to the clerk, Mrs. Zena Marin Chin, for her work over the term of this effort in trying to get the Youth Parliament on, her and the staff. That was done, I think, while the House was prorogued and members were somewhere else campaigning. All this took part at that time. And so we want to thank Ms. Zena and the parliamentary staff for all their hard work in getting to this point. Call now on the Honorable the Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Protocols having been established, a very good welcome and good morning to every one of you. It doesn't get any more real than this, and it doesn't get any better than this in terms of you, youth parliamentarians, and your experiences today. You are sitting in the same seats and filling the same roles that all of us sitting here and here fill in this House and in this Parliament. And you will be undertaking and debating motions this morning in the same way and following the same rules that we follow here in this Parliament. So in terms of the wealth and experience that you will gain this morning, it is unparalleled and will serve you well in years to come. This morning, youth parliamentarians, you are in a unique position and in a unique place in the history of our Commonwealth Parliamentary Association Youth Parliament Programme. You are the first youth parliamentarians to be debating in our newly renamed House of Parliament. Congratulations to you all. You're also the first youth parliamentarians to participate in this exceptional programme with a worldwide pandemic as a backdrop. But compared with most of your peers across the Commonwealth, you have completed the program without the need for masks and social distancing. This will give you, I believe, a very interesting and particularly interesting perspective. The pandemic has reminded us all how interconnected our world really is. COVID-19 is a reminder, as if we really needed one, that our government and our parliament, including Youth Parliament, cannot ignore the impact on us of decisions that are made internationally. For example, the different approaches that countries have adopted to manage COVID-19 has certainly impacted our ability to safely reopen our borders. And the actions of the United Kingdom in ensuring that her overseas territories have access to vaccines affords us a real lifeline and a real hope to get better days sooner rather than later. The other point that is worth mentioning and appreciating is the importance of decisions taken by Parliament and government on the well-being and future of every Caymanians. With absolutely no intent on my part of being political, I believe we can all agree this morning that the tough decisions that were taken by government, supported by the Parliament and the public, has resulted in the enviable position that we find ourselves in today, with no community spread of the virus, without the need for masks, and no social distancing in our community, all because we managed to control it. Going forward, we will need to adjust living with the threat of the virus being present in our communities in some form or the other. In my view this morning, this is why the theme of this Youth Parliament, delivering a common future, connecting, innovating, transforming, is so relevant to us all. As we look to reopen our borders and connect once again with the global community, and we will have to do so at some point, we will need to innovate and transform the way we live our lives so that we can remain safe. I cannot tell you this morning what these changes will be, not because I don't know, but I do know that change is necessary, and we will do it, and we will do it successfully. Connecting, innovating, and transforming is nothing new to us here in the Cayman Islands. We have been doing this since the first settlements through to our first parliament and beyond. Throughout our history, but especially in these last 60 years or so, we have been connecting, innovating, and transforming our islands and our economy. Our great seafaring and shipbuilding traditions help to connect us to the cities and peoples in every continent across the globe. And our lives and our fortunes were transformed for the better. As the world was changing and modernizing, we transformed and innovated again into a world-class tourism destination and a financial services center. And much of that transformation, innovation, and progress was built on laws that were established by this legislative body today. So, parliamentarians, you have an excellent opportunity to learn about Parliament and how laws are made. And in that knowledge, you have also learned in part how our progress and future can be shaped by what is done in these hallowed halls of Parliament. Today, you are debating two motions, one regarding implementing a website and an app that will promote available government resources and amenities, the other regarding a moratorium on the importation of motor vehicles. Both are very interesting and timely motions. And I look forward to the spirited debate this morning and to learning the outcome of these motions. I have no doubt this morning you will all do well. I understand that you have worked very hard and that you are well prepared for these morning's activities. Before sitting down, I want to thank each of you for participating in this important youth program. I encourage you to continue your interest in the political process and the governing of this country. It is very important to you all. I also want to thank the good staff of this Parliament, particularly the clerk, Mrs. Zina Marin-Chin, and her staff for all of the excellent work that they have done in supporting this program and helping it to become a reality this morning. I also want to thank the chairperson, MP Barbara Connolly, for her leadership over the past 4 years. MP David White, who unfortunately cannot be here this morning because he is away with a family member who is recovering from surgery in Miami. Ministers, the Honourable Kenneth Bryan and the Honourable Bernie Bush, and former MP Alva Saku for their contributions as members of the committee. Youth parliamentarians, I wish you the absolute best today. Your experiences in this youth parliament will serve you well into the future and the years to come. Please make the most of it this morning, and above all else, enjoy yourselves while you're doing it. Thank you, everyone.
Call now on the Honourable the Premier.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for establishing protocol. And firstly, let me apologize for the absence of a couple of my government colleagues who absolutely wanted to be here. That's Minister Andre Ebanks and Parliamentary Secretary Heather Bodden, who have unfortunately been called away by ministerial duties in Cayman Brac. With that said, I want to say good morning, and I bring you a very warm welcome to today's youth parliamentarians, their families, friends, and supporters, and those within government and parliament who have been working since last year to make this possible. I'm proud to be the Premier to welcome you to the 14th Youth Parliament in the Cayman Islands. Usually, our Youth Parliament is held each year on Commonwealth Day, which this year was 8th March. But the decision was taken to move the Youth Parliament debate to a date after the April 14th election. I believe the decision to postpone the debate until today has given the 21 youth parliamentarians, or the participants, a unique look at the democratic process. You were afforded the opportunity to meet with members of the last government administration and watched as a new administration was formed. You saw that the election represented the collective will of the Caymanian people, and you know that it is now the constitutional and moral responsibility of those who were sworn into office to ensure that the will of the people is reflected and respected in government's policies and priorities. You also saw that a coalition of independents have agreed to come together to focus on the 95% of the solutions for the country that we all agree on, and we're setting aside a few, perhaps 5%, that we may have varying views on. While we are all independently minded, and we should be, our common purpose is to uplift and make life better for all Caymanians and those who call these shores home. Ours is a packed coalition standing for people-driven, accountable, competent, and transparent. While we adhere to our founding principles, I want to focus today on the people-driven aspect, and particularly on the inclusion of our youth. Your attendance here today shows me that you care about democracy and our Cayman Islands. Since October, you've been working on building leadership skills and gaining knowledge and understanding of the political process. Your 2 motions, implementing a website, an application for promoting amenities and resources that benefit the Cayman Islands community, and the motion, moratorium on importation of vehicles, shows me that you do have your finger on the pulse of our nation. Your research has unearthed some interesting facts that I'm sure will make for very lively debate. It is my hope that you keep your fingers on that pulse and take part in the future democracy of our country. I believe that all parts of society must be included for any political system to be representative, and that includes you, very importantly, our young people. If our youth become disenfranchised or disengaged from the political process, then a significant part of our population is voiceless and has no influence on the decisions that are made that affect their lives. At the end of 2019, the latest population estimates published indicated that those aged 15 to 34 made up 25.9% of our population. That's a lot of voices that government needs to hear from, because our decisions on policies and programs do affect your lives. And I'm not just talking about today. When young people are engaged in the political process, they have a say in helping to formulate the politics of tomorrow. Your political participation is a fundamental political and democratic right. It is also critical in building a stable and peaceful society and helping to develop policies that address the specific needs of younger generations. Those of you participating in today's Youth Parliament debate have an upper hand when it comes to knowing about the political process. But many of your colleagues may not know or even care how democracy works. So it is incumbent on each of us to ensure that all young people are adequately represented in political institutions, processes, decision-making, elections in particular. And they need to know their rights and be given the knowledge and ability to participate at all levels of the democratic process. Young people need to be empowered to know that their voices are going to be heard and that they will be taken seriously. We have seen young people in action the world over. From the ballot box, where more than half of the eligible Americans younger than 30 voted in the presidential election, which was an increase of 10% from 2016. We have seen on television and social media young people taking to the streets to make their voices heard, fueling the most significant protest wave in the last half-century. Young people led protests against long-standing economic inequality in Chile, against police brutality in Nigeria, against corruption in Lebanon, and against endemic youth unemployment in Tunisia. Had those governments allowed the voices of their younger generations to be heard and respected, we may not have seen those protests. What all governments must realize is that the youth of today will be the leaders of tomorrow. And looking around this room, I see hope for the future of our Cayman Islands. And that is good, because as the men and women who make up the Parliament today become the stuff of history, it is your generation that we will look to take on the mantle. In the words of former United States President Ronald Reagan, and I quote, "Each generation goes further than the last or than the generation preceding it, because it stands on the shoulders of that generation." You will have opportunities beyond anything we've ever known. I know that is true for me personally. My political career has been built on the generations that came before me, a long line of family members who were public servants, who fuel my desire to get involved in government and contribute to the success of my country. Once I became a member of government in 2013, I realized that not only was it some of the most rewarding work I had ever done, but it also felt very natural. And if you do find yourself in an elected position in the government of the Cayman Islands in the future. I hope you will find what I found and are filled with the determination I have, which is to make a positive difference in the lives of the people who call these islands home. I appreciate your participation here today. You are being groomed to become the leaders of tomorrow in Cayman. If not in Parliament, then certainly in the society of the future. I thank you for all the hard work that you have put in over these past few months, and I thank all the men and women who have shepherded you through the process, all the staff members of Parliament and the previous members of the Legislative Assembly moving into Parliament, as have been noted by other speakers. With that said, I know you're ready to get on with the day, and I wish you all the best of luck. I know that your deliberations will be very interesting, if not completely amazing. So, let those deliberations begin, and we'll formally open this Youth Parliament. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Premier. I would also tender apologies for the Honorable Minister of Education, who have to be in her constituency in the BRAC attending funeral services. As there is likely to be a new Youth Parliament committee when Parliament next resumes, let me add my thanks to the committee for their stewardship over the past 4 years. I also want to thank Harness, who has sponsored the Youth Parliament over the past several years, and indeed the sponsorship of this 14th Parliament. On to your business.
This Honorable 14th Youth Parliament is now in session. I will ask the Honorable Premier to say prayers.
Let us pray. Almighty God, from whom all wisdom and power are derived, we beseech thee, and so to direct and prosper the deliberations of this 14th Youth Parliament of the Cayman Islands now assembled, that all things may be ordered upon the best and surest foundations for the glory of thy name and for the safety, honor, and welfare of the people of these islands. Bless our Sovereign Lady, Queen Elizabeth II, Charles, Prince of Wales, and all the royal family. Give grace to all who exercise authority in our Commonwealth, that peace and happiness, truth and justice, religion and piety may be established among us. Especially we pray for the youth parliamentarians participating in this youth parliament, that they may be enabled faithfully to perform the responsible duties of their high office. All this we ask for thy great name's sake. Let us say the Lord's Prayer together. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine upon us and be gracious unto us. The Lord lift up the light of his countenance upon us and give us peace now and always. Amen.
Please be seated. Reading of messages and announcements by the speaker. Members of the Parliament of the Cayman Islands, youth parliamentarians, friends, family, and other members of the public, it is my pleasure to wish you all a good morning. Before commencing, I'd like to express my utmost gratuity and honor to be playing such a key role in this honorable youth parliament as Speaker of the House. This year, the Commonwealth Day theme was Delivering a Common Future, Connecting, Innovating, and Transforming, in unity with the theme for the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting, which takes place next month in Kigali, Rwanda. After a year as trying as 2020, the Cayman Islands have displayed our strong sense of Caymankind, which is rich with unity and connection, that has allowed us to prevail through the troubling and worrisome times. With the guidance of our efficient and our strong government and the cooperation of our community, we have all made sacrifices and lifestyle changes that have allowed us to reach where we are today. The theme of 2021's Commonwealth Day can justly parallel Cayman's bright future. We all come from different countries, be of different nationalities, races, have different cultures, or speak separate languages. But we all have the same passion and drive to work together for the good of our country, connecting, innovating, and transforming for the better. The idea of coming together is also found today here in our youth parliament that stands before us, with the youth parliamentarians working together to ensure that we have a successful debate today, all coming from different schools, from different districts, and even from different countries. The topics that will be discussed today by my fellow youth parliamentarians truly demonstrates the strong desire we hold to better one's community and to provide an easier lifestyle filled with opportunities for us Caymanians. Thank you. Other business, private members' motions. Private members' motion number 1 of 2021. Implementing a website and application for promoting amenities and resources that benefit the Cayman Islands community. To be moved by the elected member for Newlands. I recognize the elected member for Newlands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to move private member's motion number 1 of 2021, implementing a website and application for promoting amenities and resources that benefit the Cayman Islands community, which reads as follows. Whereas it is acknowledged that there is a lack of marketing and promotion of services and facilities within the Cayman Islands in regards to services offered by the government, and whereas it is also acknowledged that there should be websites, applications, magazines, pamphlets, brochures, flyers, etc., as a means of distribution and awareness within the Cayman Islands to effectively educate the community, and whereas it is acknowledged that this will provide easier access and ease of reference to these amenities, such as helpful programs, transportation, financial aid, public relations, and grants, be it now therefore resolved that this Honourable Youth Parliament considers implementing a website and application for promotion of amenities and resources that benefit the Cayman Islands community.
Private member's motion number 1 of 2021 has been duly moved. Is there a seconder to the motion? I recognize the elected member for Georgetown North.
Madam Speaker, I beg to second private member's motion number 1 of 2021.
The motion has been duly moved and seconded. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
I recognize the Honourable Deputy Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move a motion to suspend Standing Order 32-4.
The motion put forward is that Standing Order 32-4 be suspended to permit members to read from their speeches. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those against, no.
No.
I believe the ayes have it. Standing Order 32-4 has been suspended. Sergeant at Arms. Sorry, can she have the podium back, please?
Madam Speaker, my role today is to bring forward private member motion number 1 of 2021. In the past and up until this present moment, the people of the Cayman Islands have become reliant on, and they refer to word of mouth and hearsay to receive information. This can be observed as part of our culture that our people have adapted to and have inherited. In this acknowledgement, a dilemma has been observed by the opposition in which there is a deficiency in the marketing and promotion of services and facilities in our country, especially with the amenities this government offers. From our research as the Youth Parliament opposition, we present this first private member's motion as a solution to this dilemma. We propose the implementation of a website and application, in other words, an app that is downloadable on our electronic devices such as our smartphones and laptops. This can be designated to prove an ease of reference and access to information on the amenities and services offered by the Cayman Islands government. Madam Speaker, as I continue to present this motion, the youth parliamentarian members of the government may be thinking, why implement a new website when each of the ministries and respective departments already has their own, which provide the general public with information? If I may respond to my own question, although it is required by the Freedom of Information Law, Section 5.3, for each ministry to have their own website, it is also very important to note that the management of these websites has been inconsistent. The government has not provided an ease of access or reference to websites that operate under each ministry or their respective departments and organizations. Various forms of information pertaining to the ministries and their respective departments are dispersed across various platforms that are not user-friendly and can become confusing to members of the public who seek information. As new generations are on the rise and taking hold, the advancements of technology have proved to not only be useful, but almost vital in the operations of our daily lives, especially when you consider the exchange of marketing of reliable and accurate information or news. In regards to this motion, marketing is the promotion of information and services through reliable platforms that are operated by the government of the Cayman Islands. The proposed name that we, the opposition, have come up with is called CI Online. This app and website can present the newest and latest news regarding government and public affairs, such as events or even coronavirus updates. CI Online would be a main hub for all the departments and ministries, including small descriptions and direct links to other sites, or within the app, a separate page with this information. This hub would make finding information simpler, as everyone would have access to the main site and app, which would allow for one to find important and helpful and beneficial information and news by following branches from said hub. It would be a starting point for the public to seek information. The government could also generate a profit by allowing private businesses to submit articles by paying a small fee. Provided that this app is properly maintained and well updated, the people of the Cayman Islands would have a secure, reliable, and not to mention convenient source of news and updates from the comfort of their homes and even in their pockets. As the name suggests, CI Online brings the Cayman Islands online for its people to use and take benefit in. Making sure that the entirety of the people in our islands receives news and updates regularly and reliably is vital to maintain our nation as one. With this app or website, CI Online, the government can utilize the field of marketing to reach out to the youth of our islands and to any who depend on receiving information as such. It can be used to reach audiences that typically may not have heard this information, or perhaps find it difficult going through several links to find it. Its main purpose will promote all current and future amenities that are offered by the government. And it is very important that it is properly maintained and updated. To conclude the points I have made, which again will be further elaborated through this debate, it is the government's responsibility to ensure that information pertaining to the amenities of their ministries and respective departments is efficiently and accurately available to the people of the Cayman Islands. And it is we, the opposition, with the presentation of this first private member's motion of the day, are offering a solution, which is CI Online, the website or app that the government can use to enhance their services and share all of their organizations and ministries to the island. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Minister of Financial Services and Home Affairs.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to speak on the private member motion number 1 of 2021, implementing a website and application for promoting amenities and resources that benefit the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, I disagree with this motion entirely. For the opposition to say that there is a lack of marketing and promotion of services and facilities within the Cayman Islands regarding services offered by the government shows a lack of knowledge within the opposition. Madam Speaker, there are many websites that are already implemented that do in fact benefit the community of the Cayman Islands. Maybe the opposition just may not have done their research. Firstly, Madam Speaker, the main government website provides key news information. In addition, each ministry...
Sorry, Kira. I recognize the Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. Is it possible for the member to provide supporting documentation in regards to the claim of numerous websites that have this information?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Can you please bring them to the table? Please continue.
So, what's the opposition's excuse for not knowing this? Madam Speaker, these main websites link to departments which they are responsible for, such as General Registry. General Registry operates multiple online systems or websites for the provision of company-related services such as corporate administration platforms, vital event applications, Cayman Business Portal, and Cayman Online Registry Information System. CBP and vital event applications are targeted at providing services for the general public, while CAP and Chorus provide services to forum within the Cayman Islands to provide company-related services directly through the system without the need to visit General Registry. Madam Speaker, I want to talk about Radio Cayman, a government radio-owned station that promotes amenities and resources, regular advertisements, and information sessions. Radio Cayman provides the sister islands with 24-hour broadcasting services daily. According to www.radio.gov.ky, Radio Cayman has 66% of listeners throughout the Cayman Islands, with the highest percentage of listener hours. Radio Cayman is also the leader in local news. Madam Speaker, the senior civil servant and government officials, such as members of the government, independent members of the parliament, as well as members of the opposition, regularly take part on local talk shows to inform the public on new and existing services. Madam Speaker, I am more than happy to set up the opposition with an interview with Radio Cayman to air their false news. Furthermore, core government through the Government Informational Services has an extensive social media presence via Instagram, Facebook.
I recognize the Honorable Leader of Opposition.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. Unparliamentary words is not allowed.
Pardon?
Unparliamentary words are not allowed.
Okay. Honorable Minister of Financial Services and Home Affairs, please maintain decorum. Continue.
When the Premier was on YouTube telling us about COVID-19 lockdown and curfew, how did the opposition think the people of Cayman knew clubs and gyms were closed? Unless the opposition trying to say that they've been clubbing through lockdown. Madam Speaker, these channels are frequently updating.
I recognize the Honorable Leader of Opposition.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. Unparliamentary words are not allowed.
Honorable Minister of Financial Services and Home Affairs, please maintain decorum.
Madam Speaker, these channels are frequently updating the public about what's going on in the sister islands as well as Grand Cayman. Finally, Madam Speaker, in the Cayman Islands 2020 to 2021 budget plan and estimate, I want to draw your attention to some key outputs of the Government Communication Services Department. For the provision of these services, For other government agencies, government has budgeted approximately 2.4 million CI dollars. In addition, government has budgeted an additional 1.489 million CI dollars for the broadcasting of public information and on-air programming. Now, Madam Speaker, as a result of the opposition's motion, why should there be an implementation of websites when there are already multiple websites which already inform and educate the public? Madam Speaker, Radio Cayman, a government-owned radio station and leader in local news, already promotes amenities and resources that already benefit the Cayman Islands, as well as GIS department having social media platforms. And so, Madam Speaker, for these reasons, I wholeheartedly disagree with this motion entirely. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for Georgetown North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the people of Cayman are said to be the first priority. Now tell me why it seems as if they are being put on the back burner. The people of Cayman are at a disadvantage. You may ask why. The government has done such a great job at creating programs and activities for our people. Yes, bravo to you. But what is the use of these great programs and activities if the community has it so hard to find out about them? And even worse, not having ease of access and reference to them. Particularly the youth, Madam Speaker. There are many services that are available to our youth for youth to utilize. This big booklet I have here, every single page is listed with wonderful activities that you all can participate in, but over half of them, none of us know about. There is a wall that blocks our youth from attaining information on these services. That wall is a lack of promotion in a proactive and effective way. The government has said, here is what we offer, instead of saying, come on, we made this for you. The focus seems to be on where it is coming from and not who it is being made for. I find it very interesting that services, activities, and clubs that are supposed to be for the youth are not presented in a way in which the youth would benefit from it most. I mean, how much of us really listening to the radio every day here? We all know that children are born with electronics these days. It is no secret that we all know everything and anything about them. Yet, there is no proper electronic outlet which provides all the information at our fingertips. The suggestion we, the opposition, are presenting is the creation of an app and or website that will have a specific tab for the youth of Cayman to access and see the opportunities available to them, how they're eligible and how they can be enrolled, and the benefits of each program. The Minister of Finance has said that websites do exist, but I'm sure the government can do better than a Word document template. $2.4 million and you cannot create a proper website? Come on now, that's a disgrace. I know this because in comparison to other websites, which are not specifically made to accommodate the youth, the Ministry of Education, Sports, Agriculture, and Lands, that website is mediocre. The new website and app this opposition is proposing for the government can be built with links which are helpful, and particularly a link to the Youth Services Unit. When opening the Youth Services Unit webpage, there is barely any information of the services they offer to the youth. It opens with a page to the Proud of Them webpage and nothing else. There are links to the Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube on their website. The last post on the Youth Services Unit Facebook was the 27th of August, 2017. The Youth Services Unit offers many programs, including the booklet I just showed you all. but I know many of you may not have seen that as we don't use paper. However, the maintenance of this site makes it close to useless, and this is when the sites work. Oftentimes, the government sites do not work. Something that will forever confuse me is how this government can make decisions for the youth without consulting the youth. It should be this government's priority.
Madam Speaker, point of order.
I recognize the Honorable Deputy Speaker.
I reference my point of order to 35.4. No member shall use improper motives to another member, including the government.
Please maintain decorum, but please continue.
It should be this government's priority to inform the youth and their parents about the programs that are available to them. The way information is presented to the youth, whether it be websites, social media accounts, is largely discussed within the government. Why is the public not involved in this process? Is the government suggesting by their actions that the people of Cayman are not worth time and effort to maintain these
Madam Speaker,
websites?
point of order.
I recognize the Honorable Deputy Speaker.
I reference my point again to 35.4. She is using improper motives to another member.
Excuse me, elected member for Georgetown North, please maintain decorum and retract your statement.
I would like to emphasize the fact that it was a question. If you had let me finish, you would have known that. Is the government suggesting by their actions that the people of Cayman are not worth the time and effort to maintain the websites and other pages for them?
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Madam Speaker, I cannot understand why an efficient and convenient source of information does not seem to be the bare minimum for this youth parliament government. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Minister of Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture, and Lands.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to speak on private member motion number 1 of 2021, implementing a website and application for promoting amenities and resources that benefit the Cayman Islands community. Madam Speaker, the assumption that there is a lack of promotion and marketing made by government services is completely unbelievable. First of all, Madam Speaker, promotion and marketing made by government services are very much prevalent. This is evident through the government's continuous use of digital and social media. Madam Speaker, how is it being requested that a website should be implemented when there are already over 7 gov.ky websites that cover all the cabinet ministries of the Cayman Islands? These gov.ky websites are rich in information pertaining to resources and services that the government has to offer. For instance, the education.gov.ky website. The website is a platform that provides Caymanian students with the financial aid that they deserve.
The elected member for Georgetown North.
Madam Speaker, does the Honorable Minister of Education, Youth, Agriculture, and Sports have supporting documents for her claim that 7 websites exist and are useful to the people of Cayman?
I believe it was provided with Kira's evidence.
Yes, it supported that. Please continue.
Okay. And even without the gov.ky websites, things like scholarships are still being promoted through other means. The Ministry of Education makes sure to even send emails out to students to remind them of scholarships. We also have persons.
Excuse me. I recognize the Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, the Minister of Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture, and Lands, elected member for Northside, have any supporting documentation in regards to these emails that she sent out?
I legally cannot because it is confidential, but people do go into schools and verbally promote things like scholarships and opportunities to students.
Honorable Leader of Opposition.
Madam Speaker, if that's the case, is it possible for her to retract her statement?
Honorable Minister of Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture, and Lands. If you cannot provide the supporting documentation, please retract your statement.
My apologies. I retract my statement. The point is, children are being told about the things that they are able to acquire. For example, people go into schools to verbally remind students of the opportunities they have. And even if it isn't digital or print promotion, it's still promotion. Crazy enough, the newest gov.ky website has a tab specifically for all services offered by the government: resident services, business services, visitor services, and even links to all e-services offered. My biggest question is, how different will this website be from the 7+ websites we already have? We have even taken it a step further.
Excuse me, I recognize the Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. This member of Minister of Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture and Lands, elected member of Northsides, is imputing improper motives. I happen to have a copy of the website on hand, and I don't see anything that she just suggested. May I please lay this at the table?
May.
Madam Speaker, I also have a copy that does list the things that I just mentioned.
You are not seated.
She was.
Do you have supporting documentation?
Yes, Madam.
Can I also have that? Your point of order was highlighting the fact that you don't see the tab anywhere. The screenshot provided by the Honorable Minister of Education shows that the tabs are clearly displayed. So please continue, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Referencing back to what Minister of Financial Services mentioned, not only do we have various social media presence, we have the government-owned radio station.
I recognize the elected member for Bordentown East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to raise a point of elucidation. I would like to know if the Minister of Education, Youth, Sports, Agriculture and Lands, elected member of Northside, has evidence such as data trafficking of how many people actually visit the website.
Please be seated. Please be seated.
Madam Speaker, point of order, he cannot raise a point of elucidation without the Honourable Minister of Education granting it.
Elected member of Bordentown East, the Honorable Minister of Education did not accept your point of elucidation. So I would just like to ask her first if she is willing to do so.
No, I'm not willing to do so.
Please continue.
Radio Cayman actively reports information and news all day, every day to our community. And if that still isn't enough promotional activity for government services, we have CIGTV, the official television channel of the Cayman Islands government that is currently broadcasting this youth parliament. Madam Speaker, I find it particularly interesting that the claim of the opposition team's motion is that more awareness equals easier access. Madam Speaker, I have to disagree. How are more magazines, pamphlets, brochures, flyers, and billboards going to equal easier access? The effectiveness of these promotional means are being questioned now. Is a billboard going to be able to effectively inform our community of services as well as where to get these services? Or will it just be a bunch of chaos on a board that doesn't serve any purpose but to distract drivers nearby? Madam Speaker, I firmly believe that if this motion were to pass, it would be of no significance, simply redundant to the many methods of promotion we already have. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? Recognize the Honorable Premier.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to speak on the on motion 1 of private member motion number 1 of 2021, the implementation of a website and application for promoting amenities and resources that benefit the Cayman Islands community. I'm going to try and keep this short and sweet. I rise to acknowledge a minor error on the side of the opposition of identifying accessibility to government amenities as the same as awareness of those same amenities. As I'm sure you know, there's a distinct distance of being able to access something and being aware of them. The motion specifically states that it is acknowledged that this will provide easier access and ease of reference to these amenities. I will say it again. It is acknowledged that this will provide easier access and ease of reference to these amenities. Not may make it easier, not might make it easier, but it will make it easier. Within the motion, there is a mention of a lack of advertising and how there needs to be an increase in said advertising. There is not, however, any mention as to how awareness of these facilities will allow Caymanian people to more easily access and utilize those same facilities. I would also like to quickly acknowledge the previously mentioned tools already in place for the people to use, such as various social media outlets that the government body currently uses on a regular basis to give updates on the COVID pandemic and other such useful positives for the Caymanian people. I believe we can trust the people to make good use of these facilities in place of their own, in order to gain their own advantage for the community as a whole. We don't need any more than is necessary at the moment, I believe we are already doing a lot to ensure the people have the information they want and need. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for West Bay Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of the private member's motion number 1 of 2021. Following up with what my peers have stated, I'll be discussing the public transport's current disadvantage with our promotional, and why us, the Youth Parliament opposition, will urge the Youth Parliament government to take notice of our predicament and the opposition's solution towards it. Public transportation opportunities given by the government and private owners isn't a problem. In fact, we have many options for public transportation. However, what we don't have is the promotional for them. Most, if any, advertisement is catered towards tourists on the island, and there isn't much information on sites that are made for Cayman residents. Most of the sites that contain information on public transportation are made for tourists, so it would be rare that you see a Cayman resident on these sites. Even sites made for Cayman residents and tourists alike, an example of this is CaymanAirports.com, still uses language that is directed towards tourists. Furthermore, while we may have plenty of public transportation options, since these are not all run by government, there's opportunity for manipulation. One prominent example that many of us would be aware of has to do with the bus fares. While the price to catch a bus is $2, if you don't know this or ask, they may say it's $5, $6, $7, even $8. Which is unfair to those Cayman residents and tourists taking the bus for the first time, who wouldn't know these things. Having the proper advertisement for transport opportunities would allow not only for the awareness of them, but also information about how to get them, prices, etc. This kind of promotional will prevent such manipulation as this one. And while there is information out there, a large portion of Cayman residents, especially young Caymanians, who are most in need of this information, can't find it. This is because there's very little promotion as to where to even find or get this information. CIGO Taxi Fare app, an app that allows you to track the taxi that you're in and how much fare you owe, has only 1,000 downloads. When the population of the Cayman Islands is around 64,000, doing the math, this means that less than 2% of Caymanians have this app. And of that 1,000 downloads, some of those could be tourists who came and visited the island and just have the app on their phone. So that less than 2% could be even less. This low amount of downloads show how little effort is going into the promotion of transportation information that would help Cayman residents. The Youth Parliament government need to realize that our current promotional that the Cayman Islands is offering isn't acceptable. Nor is it acceptable to any visitors of the Cayman Islands who may not know things that only residents would be expected to know. The Cayman Islands can no longer rely on simple word of mouth for the spread of information. We need to do better for our Caymanians, for our Cayman residents, and tourists alike.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Attorney General.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to speak in this honourable House. It is my role as Attorney General to bring to the House's attention that there are statutes which provide for the Cayman Islands community to access to information, and some laws which may infringe on this promotion as well. The Data Protection Law, which came into effect September 30th, 2019, is a very important law which I believe should be referenced in relation to this motion. The Data Protection Law is, in its name, a law which protects the misuse of data from a user from companies and websites who are wanting to use it. Of course, this can prevent the use of ads and therefore the promotion of websites and other electronic amenities to whom it must be directed to, creating an obstruction in the freedom at which the government can promote their resources to an efficient ability. This means that in order to promote information to the best of ability, there is a legal boundary the government cannot cross in order to rightfully protect the data of the people in the Cayman Islands. In addition, the Cayman Islands Freedom of Information Act states that, on the government website, the Freedom of Information Law 2020 revision reinforces and gives further effect to these fundamental principles underlying the system of constitutional democracy by granting to the public a general right of access to records held by the Cayman Islands government. It is clear that this is an example of the variety of services offered by the government, allowing the privilege that all Caymanians can access information by the government quickly and easily. This Freedom of Information Act provides an ease of reference to all laws in reference to certain amenities which were listed by the opposition, which include laws on transportation/traffic, traffic law 2011, financial aid, monetary authority law 2018, and grants, private funds law 2020. Moreover, Madam Speaker, most importantly, I believe the Cayman Islands Information and Communications Law 2019 revision is one of the most important laws I must mention this evening. Some important sections of this law, I believe, must be pointed out are, in summary, Section 9, Part 3A, which the government states that their duty is to promote competition of ICT services and ICT networks. This means allowing more websites and applications for promoting amenities and government services, directly in reference to the opposition's motion. And Section 9, Part 3BC, which the government states that they must promote through public education, research and development initiatives, ICT in the islands. In better words, Madam Speaker, it promises exactly what the opposition believes must be implemented: the promotion of ICT, which includes websites and applications in the Cayman Islands. Finally, Madam Speaker, it is also important to mention the Cayman Islands Tourism Law 1995 revision. Section 4, Part 1 of this law says, in the discharge of his function, the minister may take all measures he deems fit to promoting the islands as a year-round tourist resort, and for that purpose shall use his best endeavors to, Section C, encourage the development of amenities calculated to attract visitors to the islands. These amenities include brochures, websites, flyers, social media, magazines. The encouragement/promotion of amenities, in which the opposition's motion focuses on, must ensure that they are conforming with these rules in this law, as it directly benefits the Cayman Islands community, as our economy depends on tourism. It is one of our main industries, and economically one of our biggest sources of finance, and thus this law answers the motion of the opposition. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to speak in this honourable House.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, elected member for Bodden Town West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As the Deputy Leader of Opposition, today it is astonishing that the Youth Parliamentarian Government have offered themselves to present minimum support to a motion that is so beneficial to the people of the Cayman Islands. Not only is this motion beneficial to our beloved island, it is also needed. It is a modern necessity. Why not care for one another and help each other out? To support the initiative of this motion, I'll be discussing the fields of employment, infrastructure, environment, and health. Madam Speaker, to start on employment, the current jobs and job situations offered by the Youth Parliamentarian Government are limited in promotion, yet reach expats before reaching our local Caymanian citizens. Stated from the Cayman Islands Employment Law, under discrimination, an employer or prospective employer shall not, on the grounds specified in subsection number 2, discriminate in relation to race, color, sex, and religion. So why are Caymanians clueless to these situations? Despite small promotions, the furthering sources such as recruitment.gov.ky and linkedin.com seem to lean towards expats. The answer for this is yet to be identified. But stated by the law, all employers or prospective employers shouldn't be discriminated. Another main problem would be that too many jobs and opportunities sit on websites while time is going past. Us Caymanians shouldn't have to rely on the latest newspaper or Cayman Mall Road to inform us on any jobs. No offense. Nonetheless, going on seven different sources to find similar information. 7? Really? What about one up? The lack of promotion on current jobs decreased the growth of companies by a large amount each year. Madam Speaker, some might say with the current websites and small amounts of information, the sister islands have nothing to complain about. But with research and statistics supported by an online survey done by a member of the opposition, or Google Forms, in the Cayman Islands, less than 50% of the Cayman citizens know where to find job applications, let alone know the websites for them. What are the positive effects from this? As well as this, another main question was asked, and I quote, "Do you think the Cayman Islands government should implement a website and app that provides efficient and accurate information for the amenities and resources that are offered and available in the Cayman Islands?" Let that sink in. When the results were brought in, a grand 93.3% voted yes. What I tell you? Madam Speaker, this simply states that our island is in desperate need for a change. On the 13th of February 2021, 30 different jobs sat on the government's website with a 26 to 6 day deadline, and not one of them were brought forward publicly. Deadlines were even passed on that day. To support this, I have... It's somewhere down there. To support this point, I put forward a screenshot taken on that day and a tally made by adults in my school, Clifton Hunter, showing their knowledge over the website that was posted. Once again, the tally showed that 75% of them were clueless. Infrastructure. Revolving different industries, this is as simple as knowing the latest updates.
Leader of the opposition stated that he was talking to high school children. However, high school children should be focusing on CXCs and stuff, not buildings being built by government, and as well as statistics on jobs that they can't even apply for, Madam Speaker. So I'll ask you to ask them to retract that statement.
Deputy Leader of the Opposition, do you
Madam
have...
Speaker, sorry about that, but what was the point of order? Also, I said teachers, so CXC not really in the picture, you know? Anyways, let's see. All right, like I said, sorry. These are usually said by news sources or carried around the island by speech. In 2021, with a high developing island, everyone should know and understand what's going on around us and taking place in the coming weeks, months, or years. This is also tied with environment, as the island are usually unaware of productivity until seen. An application/website would be ideal for situations in error like these. Where would be the hassle when you open your phone, computer, or electric device to a multifunctional app that states and provides all the latest news and updates for Cayman? Think about that. For example, relevancy today would come under the COVID-19 vaccinations and health updates from each patient. To keep in touch with the news and the latest news for the Cayman Islands. The app's promotion and the updates will provide convenience and assistance for each resident in the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, to emphasize on what I mean by wanting a change for the limited promotion, we should be able to go on one single application or one single website and get everything we need there. It's much easier. This will range from all sorts of information, like job applications to
You
recent
have 30
news.
seconds remaining.
Yes, ma'am. To recent news. Targeting all age groups, this will be easy accessible. And with the help of this app, citizens will no longer have to wait for information. CI Online is a modern necessity for the Cayman Islands, and only fools will disagree. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, elected member for Georgetown Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of private member's motion number 1 of 2021. As we have already established, there is a lack of marketing and promotion of services offered within the Cayman Islands. There are so many programs, initiatives offered here, and there's not enough advertising done. Too many times I have seen locals, my classmates, potential leaders of tomorrow, leaving the island and seeking better education elsewhere. Better opportunities. I am tired of hearing the word better in relation to different countries. I want better here. I want better for my own country. I want to hear that my classmates have an option and it is not a requirement for them to leave the country to seek higher education, to seek opportunities. Yes, the government information services are doing something, but Madam Speaker, is it enough? We are living in the 21st century where technology is the primary source of marketing and being aware. Is it really where it's supposed to be? Madam Speaker, government needs to wake up and recognize that we are not the enemy. We are doing our job. And if they were doing theirs, they would not.
Recognize the Honorable Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, point of elucidation. I would like to know how. Sorry.
Do you accept her
I
point?
do not accept, ma'am.
Okay, please continue.
We are living in the 21st century where technology is the primary source of marketing and being aware. Is it really where it's supposed to be? Madam Speaker, government needs to wake up and recognize that we are not the enemy. We are doing our job. And if they were doing theirs, we would not be here today going back and forth, dictating how a simple task like marketing is a positive impact on our country, our community, our youth. Madam Speaker, government should know that GIS is all but the mouthpiece. Information needs to be flowing from the different departments in government. Information is out of date, services are not working, government needs to wake up and smell the coffee. Why do we constantly have to wait until something is broken? Why do we get so caught up in our daily activities that we ignore the signals that something is not working? Madam Speaker, I am here as an advocate for my community. I know my purpose and my role. I see the warning, I see the signs of wear, I see the cracks in the system and hear my country pleading for help. Yet, government waits. They wait for elections to come around to do something, Madam Speaker. They put their own gains above the country's. Madam Speaker, why does government wait until elections are around the corner to do something? Will we have to wait for the next 4 years for them to do something now? Madam Speaker, I am frustrated. I am beyond appalled with the behavior today. The suggestions, the arguments brought here today are disregarding the overall fact that what we have right now is not working, and we would like to improve it. The question today is, what are we going to do about it? Are we going to do something about it, or are we going to discuss until we are exhausted and end up doing absolutely nothing, which is a precedent for a lot of things around here? Madam Speaker, I would like to quote the Freedom of Information Law 2020 revision. Section 5, which outlines publication of information by public authorities, and I quote, "A public authority shall cause to be published within 12 months of the appointed day, its establishment or the coming into operation of an order." I would also like to cite Section 6, which states, "Subject to the provision of this law, every person shall have a right to obtain access to a record." Madam Speaker, let me say that again for the people in the back because I really do not think they heard me. Every person shall have a right to obtain access to a record. Madam Speaker, the law does not say some people or that the records need to be updated when government feels like it. It states every person and that they have a right to obtain access to a record. Madam Speaker, I feel like I have done my job. I can conclude my speech now. Madam Speaker, our motion wants to implement a website and application for promotion of amenities and resources that benefit the Cayman Islands community so that every person could obtain access to helpful information. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Deputy Speaker, elected member for Georgetown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the Honorable Leader of Opposition is right. The government needs to wake up. Because I just came back to reality. The opposition speeches were so boring that I began to daydream. While daydreaming, though, Madam Speaker, a question clicked. The two most important days of our lives.
Recognize the Honorable Leader of Opposition.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. I would like to refer to Section 401.1. The presiding officer, after having called the attention of the House or of a committee to the conduct of a member who persists in irrelevance or tedious repetition, either of his own arguments or the arguments used by the other members, may direct the member to discontinue his speech and to resume his seat. Madam Speaker, what he has said is very much irrelevant. I'd like to hear about the private member's motion number 1.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, what is your response?
She will hear about private member motion number 1, but it's just as irrelevant as she just said. Madam Speaker, the two most important days of our lives are the day that we are born and the day we find out what in the world is this opposition's motion.
Please be seated.
Madam Speaker, I am simply failing to understand what the opposition wants the government to do with their motion.
Please be seated. Honorable Leader of Opposition.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to make reference to Standing Order 411, irrelevance. Can he please get to the point?
Honorable Deputy Speaker, please get to the point.
Madam Speaker, starting off with the elected member of Newlands, jumping out her skin to tell us what this motion is about, only to be breaking Standing Order 24.4, which reads as follows. A motion shall not contain personal opinions or controversial allegations unnecessary to the main issue upon which the House is being moved to declare its will. As the Honorable Premier said, in the opposition's motion in the third whereas section, it says that this will provide something. Madam Speaker, is a direct violation to the standing order, as there's no way she can promise anything to the people of the Cayman Islands. Madam Speaker, since we're on the base of breaking apart the motion, because I'm supposed to get to the point, I want to draw your undivided attention to the second whereas, where it declares, and whereas it acknowledged that there should be websites, applications, magazines, pamphlets, brochures, flyers, billboards, and the list goes on. But what caught my eye was where they stated social media. Madam Speaker, it is quite bold of the opposition to assume that everyone has social media or is technology inclined. As the elected member of Georgetown West, I have a question for the opposition. Can they provide the funds to ensure the people in my constituency can be trained on how to use these social media devices?
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to make reference to Standing Order 32.4. A member...
Madam Speaker, point of order 32.4 has been suspended.
32.4 has been suspended.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. A member desiring to speak may raise in his place, and if called upon by the presiding officer, shall address the chair. No member shall speak until called upon.
Please continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as I said before, as the elected member of Georgetown West, I have a question for the opposition. Can they provide the funds to ensure that people in my constituency can be trained on how to use all these social media devices that they impose? And on top of that, then funds to ensure that people in my constituency can be given these technology devices.
Please be seated. Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Point of elucidation, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I decline. Madam Speaker, as we all know, money is the root of all evilness. So now I'm beginning to understand why all the opposition is doing is asking us to spend. Madam Speaker, they are not taking into consideration that there is no direct financial return to the government when promoting such amenities and resources.
Please be seated. Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, point of order. Can this member provide information regarding the fact that there will be no returns for funds?
Madam Speaker, if you reference that one to the Attorney General, she knows all the laws and they say that there's no direct financial return to the government.
Yes, ma'am.
Madam Speaker, can it be please provided?
Honorable Attorney General.
Madam Speaker, can that point please be repeated?
Can you please provide documentation in regards to what he just said?
What law are you referring to?
Honorable Leader of Opposition, please be seated. Honorable Deputy Speaker, can you tell the Honorable Attorney General what she must provide.
Madam Speaker, I will retract that statement.
Thank you. Please continue.
Madam Speaker, all the opposition is doing is telling us why, and not how. They can't even tell us simple things such as where we should and are going to get the funds from to promote all these brochures, magazines, billboards, etc. So if the opposition wants to talk about promoting amenities and resources, they need to first put their money where their mouth is. Madam Speaker, allow me to relay a piece of information that was disclosed earlier by the Minister of Education. 2 government websites that promote amenities and resources are gov.ky and eservices.gov.ky. And these were not the first these websites were being mentioned by today. But now look, Madam Speaker, the opposition is once again shocked by that piece of information. They're over there hyperventilating. Quick, someone, call an ambulance. Madam Speaker, before the opposition comes to us with a unified proposition on how to solve these issues that they claim we have, they're attacking the governments for the efforts that we have made that has so far been successful and benefited thousands.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, can he please provide this proof where he says it's benefited thousands?
Honorable Deputy Speaker, do you have proof of this?
I do not have the proof of that. However, it is a known fact or that this motion would not be created today.
Honorable Leader of Opposition.
Madam Speaker, if he does not have the proof, he needs to retract the statement. It is untrue.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, if you do not have the proof, I must ask you to retract your statement.
Madam Speaker, I will not retract my statement.
Honorable Leader of Opposition.
Madam Speaker, I'm asking him to retract the statement because he does not have proof.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, what's your response?
My response is the motion here created today figuratively comments my response as in to say there's no evidence to say it has benefited thousands. If it benefited no one, the government over here would not have created the website in the first place, and they would not need to implement a new motion to create another website to benefit more. As the Honorable Deputy Leader of the Opposition stated, he used the website to conduct an interview or a survey amongst Clifton Hunter people to get responses. So how is these information for the survey being displayed to Clifton Hunter when there is nothing that doesn't show up my proof?
Please be seated. Honorable Leader of Opposition.
Madam Speaker, all I am asking of this member is for him to either retract the statement or provide proof of his findings.
He just did. He supported his argument. So I believe that he can continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, one thing for fact, 2 things for certain, this motion is poorly structured. I don't know how this motion was even going to be allowed to be presented into this honorable House. It is now clear to me that if the Honorable Leader of the Opposition allowed her opposition members to bring forth this motion, the only thing she's leading is leading the opposition astray. Madam Speaker, the blind cannot lead the blind, so they should be thankful that I can see over here today. A year ago, I said in this very House, the people are taking the comedians more seriously and the politicians as jokes. This motion is the type of joke they're talking about. You really mean to tell me the opposition is pushing for a motion to put up billboards that can't feed people, flyers that can't lower gas prices, and pamphlets that can't even fund gusts, much less breeze, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, the opposition needs to remember that we are here for the people, by the people, to represent the people, Madam Speaker. To represent the people in the House of Parliament, not in Prospect Playhouse, so the opposition is clearly in the wrong house, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, while I can say the opposition motion is somewhat commendable, they need to adjust it and put their priorities first and in orders. Billboards cannot fix the cost of living in the Cayman Islands that so many are suffering from. Pamphlets cannot help with the increase of the minimum wage. Flyers cannot get our youth properly educated. And most importantly, social media cannot put a moratorium on the importation of vehicles of cars. Madam Speaker, I'll ask you to allow me 30 more seconds. Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is simple. Billboards, flyers, brochures, magazines, etc. are in the definition of itself. All talk and no action. What are billboards going to do? Tell a man who's making $6 an hour that you can do it. You keep pushing, come to the government for money? No, Madam Speaker, that is foolishness, just like the opposition's motion. So for the opposition to come here and tell us the government has not done a good job and they want to promote something that has already been promoting is completely and utterly wrong. I say this wholeheartedly. I must, and I will reject this motion, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? If no other member wishes to speak, I will ask the mover of the motion to exercise her right of reply.
Madam Speaker, I would like to bring forward this piece of this document that I have here that has screenshots of the various different websites that the government has here. If I could present this, just for reference. As the government has stated, they're asking where exactly we can find these funds to help teach, in a sense, the government how to use these websites like social media and whatnot. But I'd like to say, how can you say that you are able to promote all of these services properly if you don't even know how to use Instagram, much less Facebook? The government has stated that they have various websites that are used to promote and inform the public. But why do you need so many? Is not one website, one app enough? Our motion is to instate not another website that will have just additional information, but a new one that would combine all of this information so that we don't have to continuously look across various web interfaces to find them. And who's to say that the websites that are up have all this website traffic as they claim? Notice that how all the websites that were listed are commonly used, while government has websites that are not up to date that people need to use. Why are these sites not up to date? Because they just aren't used. Shouldn't that always be updated and maintained, at the very least reviewed? With so many websites and so many things to constantly update and keep track of, I'm certain that the opposition is not looking into the water and seeing things that come out of nowhere. We have seen where the government has fallen short in not necessarily the advertisements, but the information that is promoted online. Where is all this? Where did this motion come from, if not viewing all of these missing information that is online? It's coming from somewhere, and if the government cannot maintain all of its sites and properly maintain and review them constantly, who's to say that the ones that they do have up are up to date? Madam Speaker, also, to the fact that the Minister of Education did not give way to the point of elucidation shows how much she actually cares about the youth of our islands.
Speaker, point of order.
Please be seated.
I reverse my point of order to 35.4. No member shall use improper motives towards another member.
What is your response?
I'll move on.
No, please retract your statement.
I will retract my statement. My apologies. Is the government suggesting that we already don't have people who are working to promote all of these amenities? If we have the people working already to promote, is it that much difficult to review all of them and make it more efficient? Even if perhaps a new website would not be a better idea, as the government is saying, wouldn't it not also be better to listen to what the opposition is saying in terms of if there is deficiencies within what is already existent, so then you should listen to when there is more advice. If we are saying, if the opposition, is saying that there are deficiencies within the marketing and promotion and the information that is displayed online, perhaps as the government who leads and should take care of our islands, you should take into account that there must be something that needs to be changed. Perhaps it is updating these websites so that they are more pleasant to look at and more easy to find, or perhaps that there's information there that is missing or not properly updated and reviewed. If this motion did not come to what it needed to be, perhaps there is something the government can take out of it, which is there are deficiencies and they should be reviewed and they should be updated. Thank you.
The question is, be it now therefore resolved that this Honorable Youth Parliament considers implementing a website and application for promotion of amenities and resources that benefit the Cayman Islands community. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those against, no.
No.
Madam Speaker, I'd like to call a division, please.
Madam Clerk, may I have a division, please?
Honorable Ryan Frick.
No.
Honorable Matthew Houghton. Honorable Shira Dawkins.
No.
Honorable Johnny Lund. Honorable Sharika McPherson. Honorable Jamar McCoy.
No.
Honorable Kira Bodden. No. Miss Ariana Anglin. No. Mr. Jelani Hansen.
No.
Honorable Rion Porter. No. Honorable Leah Robinson.
Yes.
Mr. Jerry Allen Ezekiel.
Yes, Mom.
Mr. Andrew McLaughlin Jr.
Yes.
Ms. Shankar Palraj. Mr. Shankar Palraj. Yes. Ms. Sarah Sato Bodden.
Yes.
Ms. Sierra Chong.
Yes.
Ms. Shayla Reed.
Yes.
The result of the division is 7 ayes and 9 noes. Private Members Motion Number 1 of 2021, implementing a website and application of promoting amenities and resources that benefit the Cayman Islands community, has duly failed. This House will suspend its proceedings for a brief break. I ask all members to return to the chamber promptly at 12:30. Proceedings are resumed. Please be seated.
Private Members Motion number 2 of 2021. Moratorium on the importation of vehicles to be moved by the elected member for Georgetown South.
I recognize the elected member for Georgetown South.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move private member motion number 2 of 2021, moratorium on importation of vehicles, which reads as follows. Whereas the world is constantly moving towards the use of renewable energy, which includes the reduction in use of diesel and gasoline to operate vehicles, and whereas the Cayman Islands has a national energy policy which states that, quote, more than 99% of energy demand in the Cayman Islands is met by oil products, largely diesel and gasoline, end quote, and whereas while the national energy policy calls for a reduction in diesel use products, it does not, however, specify exactly how this should be accomplished. And whereas in the Compendium of Statistics report for 2019, it was reported that there are 38,509 duly inspected motor vehicles in the Cayman Islands, with 29,679 of those being private motor cars. And whereas the Compendium of Statistics report 2019 states that the top 3 products of carbon dioxide in the Cayman Islands are 1, power generation, 2, cars, and 3, buses. And whereas, according to the National Energy Policy, the Cayman Islands aspires to meet the agreed-upon Paris Climate Change Agreement reductions to 4.8 tons of carbon dioxide emissions by 2030, and whereas over the past 5 years there has been an increase in the number of either electric or hybrid motor vehicles imported to the Cayman Islands, and whereas the amount of electric or hybrid motor vehicles that are being imported is insufficient enough to make a significant impact on the use of diesel use products or an impact on the level of carbon dioxide in the Cayman Islands, be it now therefore resolved that this Honorable Youth Parliament considers placing a moratorium on the importation of all vehicles into the Cayman Islands, and be it now further resolved that this Honorable Youth Parliament considers placing a moratorium on the number of vehicles which uses diesel or gasoline, specifically private and commercial motor vehicles, motorcycles, and watercrafts, which can be imported into the Cayman Islands on a yearly basis, so that there is an 80% reduction of such vehicles by the year 2040.
Private Members Motion number 2 of 2021, moratorium on the importation of vehicles, has been duly moved. Is there a seconder to the motion? I recognize the elected member for West Bay North.
Madam Speaker, I beg to second private member's motion number 2 of 2021.
The motion has been duly moved and seconded. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yes, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Madam Speaker. First and foremost, I am very thankful for the opportunity to move the Youth Parliament government motion. Since the first importation of a petroleum vehicle in Cayman, the Cayman Islands has produced hundreds of thousands of tons of carbon dioxide. Since the first importation of a petroleum vehicle in Cayman, we've done nothing but import more and more and more of these petroleum vehicles. Madam Speaker, since the first importation of a petroleum vehicle in Cayman, the Cayman Islands has actively engaged in the production of a gas that has a negative impact on the environment, our health, and our quality of life. This was one of many stimuli that urged us to create the Cayman Islands National Energy Policy, the goal of which is to decrease the cost of energy, increase the environmental sustainability of the Cayman Islands' energy sector, to increase energy security, and to develop a renewable energy industry in the Cayman Islands. However, the Cayman Islands as it stands is in a highly unfavorable position. It is unfortunate that I must report that the Ministry of Commerce has calculated that only 5% of the objectives set out in this policy have been met to date. 5%. Madam Speaker, 5%. It's been 5 years. Madam Speaker, we are moving at slower than snail pace. This is embarrassing on us as parliamentarians and on us as citizens of the Cayman Islands. With this, I ask the question, how in the world do we, the government, expect 100% of the objectives of the National Energy Policy to be achieved within the next 16 years if we keep crawling at such a slow pace? Madam Speaker, we have reviewed the national energy policy, and that is why this Youth Parliament government has chosen today to put forward private member motion number 2 of 2021. We, the government, want to implement a system where we reduce the number of diesel and gas-powered vehicles gradually from the high number it is to a flat 0, because we need to attack this issue from its source. We want to implement a system where only automobiles a certain number of years old can be imported onto the island, because more and more vehicle manufacturers are moving towards exclusively electric and hybrid products. Madam Speaker, this year's Commonwealth theme comes to mind when I speak on this motion. That theme is delivering a common future, connecting, innovating, transforming. We want to implement a system in which we connect, innovate, and transform so as to not just deliver a common future, but a better future to the people of the Cayman Islands. In 2019, the United Nations said that there are only 11 more years for the world to prevent irreparable damage from climate change. We are in 2021. Madam Speaker, we are acting as if we have all the time in the world and then some, but that is by no means the case. We are running out of time. There is no way we can just relax for the 11, no, as a matter of fact, 9. We cannot relax for the 9 years we have left and only then get ready to fix an unfixable problem. Madam Speaker, to deny this motion is to deny the needs of our people and our environment, because we live in a time where motions like these are needed now more than ever. We live in a time where the rate of carbon dioxide production is climbing higher and higher. We live in a time where the gaping hole we've punctured in our ozone layer is not getting any smaller. We live in a time where people are at risk of disease and illness because of human activities. Madam Speaker, we live in a time where Cayman is not playing the part it could and should be, a time where Cayman can do so much more. We need this motion because it will fast-track the objectives that are set out to be achieved in the national energy policy, and more. As a nation, it would be daft for us to move towards a better future within our own time, because by the time we are ready to begin moving and pursue the objectives of the national energy policy, there might not be a better future to move towards. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for West Bay North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise in support of private member's motion number 2 of 2021, moratorium on the importation of vehicles. Madam Speaker, I have to say that it breaks my heart that though the Cayman Islands has become a very highly developed country, we are not doing better in terms of doing our part to bring the world into the era of renewable energies. We have the resources, we have the finance, we have the spirit. What we need is the discipline and the commitment to carry through with this step. We understand that some people might believe that a small country like our own does not contribute much on a global scale. However, what needs to be understood is that it only takes the smallest change to create the biggest impact. Madam Speaker, it was predicted in the International Renewable Energy Agency that renewables will provide the majority of global energy at an astounding 86% by 2050. However, I find it appalling that in 2017, an alarming 99% of our electricity here in the Cayman Islands was generated by diesel and gas, and only a single 1% was generated by solar power. Only 1%. How are we supposed to carry on like this? Are we just expected to sit back and do nothing? No, I refuse. That's like expecting the whole world to survive on just a single bottle of water, which is where we will end up if we carry on like this. Madam Speaker, if Cayman cannot improve this number when it comes to generating electricity, we must find other ways of cutting down our diesel and gas consumption. What is an excellent way of doing this? Using renewable energy to operate vehicles. As I said before, the smallest change can make the biggest difference. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for West Bay Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to express my opinion on this motion before the Honorable Youth Parliament. With what has been said so far, I do not believe that the Youth Parliament government has fully thought through how this motion will impact our Caymanians and general population. With this motion, I'll be expanding on how the incurred effects of it would be an inconvenience in this time for our Caymanians and Cayman residents. First, I would like to ask a question. How would the Cayman Islands people be affected by the moratorium on electric cars? When I said I do not believe that the Youth Parliament government has thought through this motion, I meant it. This has not been thought through. They have not thought through what is needed for this motion to be successful. Currently, dealerships are not selling electric cars as they do not have brand support, as has been previously said by Joey Hugh, a previous minister. As well as secondhand dealerships rarely, if ever, have electric cars. This means that the general public would have to buy electric cars overseas and import them in, which take revenue out of our country, and also adds an extra expense for the Cayman Islands general public. We also don't have many options, if any, for maintenance. We not only don't have the specific equipment for each type of vehicle, as we do not have brand support, Without the brand support that we don't have, we won't have access to equipment for each specific vehicle,
Point of
nor the
elucidation.
parts.
Do you accept his point of elucidation?
No, Madam Speaker.
Please be seated. Please continue.
Without the brand support that we don't have, we won't have access to the parts needed for each specific vehicle. Another reason why I do not believe that the Youth Parliament government has thought through this motion and is being premature. There's another question I would like to ask. Would the moratorium on electric vehicles, buying an electric vehicle, be a good investment for the average Caymanian person or Caymanian resident? First, I'll go through the expenses for an electric vehicle compared to a gas vehicle, and then I'll talk money. Which is easier for the average person to buy, an electric vehicle or a gas vehicle? Electric vehicles cost around $55,000, while a gas vehicle costs around $36,000. Going on, the maintenance and the cost of installing home charging stations bring it to around almost $2,000 for an electric vehicle compared to almost $1,000 for a gas vehicle. The Cayman Islands also does not have brand support, meaning that they do not, as I've said before, meaning they do not have the parts required to fix these cars. This means that Cayman Islands people would have to outsource for these parts, shipping them in, buying them overseas. The cost of these parts can go between $100 and $10,000. Another expense added on to a large list of expenses for electric vehicles compared to gas vehicles. Going in with the cost for an electric vehicle to buy it, $55,000. The maintenance, which is $489 on average. Home charging stations, which on average is $1,250. And parts, which is around $20,000. This brings our total up to around $70,000. While for a gas vehicle, the average gas vehicle costs $36,000, maintenance $931, shipping around $2,000 on average, and parts on average would be $12,000. This brings our total up to almost around $42,000. The difference of this is a little bit over $30,000. I don't know about you, but I don't have $32,000 to be laying around to spend on electric vehicles. It is unrealistic and premature of the Youth Parliament government to think that we can have a reduction of 80% of traditional gas vehicles. Aren't we supposed to be thinking about the citizens of the Cayman Islands? I would assume the answer would be yes. Then if so, why, Madam Speaker, is the Youth Parliament government pushing for a motion that is put in too short of a time for the citizens of the Cayman Islands, especially in the wake of COVID-19, when the Cayman Island citizens are still recovering economically from this pandemic? We are not ready for this motion, and it is unrealistic for the Youth Parliament government to present this motion as if it could be done. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Minister of Commerce, Planning, and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise in support of private member motion number 2 of 2021, a moratorium on importation of vehicles. Whereas in the Compendium of Statistic Report in 2019, it was reported that there are 38,509 duly inspected vehicles in the Cayman Islands. Here now, in 2021, just 2 years later, the number of cars rose to 54,168. Did you hear that, Madam Speaker? 54,168. At this rate, where will we end up? An economy full of CO2? An island with no trees or animals, only roads? An economy living off artificial oxygen? Madam Speaker, there are 28,824 houses in the Cayman Islands. And if you do your math, because the opposition clearly cannot, this is approximately 3 cars per home. This is 2,248.411 metric tons of CO2 daily per home. And as the Minister of Health will explain, the effects of this on one's body. Madam Speaker, all of this can and will be changed in a moratorium on the importation of vehicles by increasing the tax on gas vehicles and reducing the tax on electrical cars. Out of the 54,168 cars that are registered on island, only 174 are electric. Now, is that really helping our environment? As the Minister of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure, I need to plan for the safety and health of the Cayman Islands. One of the plans that I propose is selling our old cars and car parts to other countries such as China or those who are seeking to buy. This will not just benefit us by cleaning up the environment.
Honorable Minister of Commerce, please have a seat. Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Point of elucidation, Madam Speaker.
Do you accept her point of elucidation?
No.
Please be seated.
This will not just benefit us by cleaning up the environment, but also helping us to get funds to afford better solutions to the CO2 emissions of greenhouse gases. Not only that, but this is a step to solving one of the biggest questions of how we're going to dispose of old vehicles. I, as Minister of Commerce, can say that there is just no more money to be wasting on new roads, highways, or roundabouts. The budget is allotted for roads is $30 million. $30 million on something we can't eat, drink, or sleep on. And if the opposition does not like what I'm saying, whatever comes out my mouth, Madam Speaker, comes out my mouth.
Please be seated.
Madam Speaker, point of order. Does the member have a document to support the fact that he stated that $30 million are being spent on roads? Thank you.
Honorable Deputy Speaker.
I got it.
Your inquiry was about the 30 million. Could you please point out, if you happen to know, where we can find that information? Thank you. Obviously, we cannot look through all of this, but I am going to trust the Honorable Minister of Commerce. Please continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. How much land do we have left, Madam Speaker, to be building new roads? Sooner or later, we're going to have to grow gills and live in the ocean because there will be no space left for us. As explained by the elected member of Georgetown South, the natural energy policy was considered and prepared against a background where the high cost.
Elected member for Bordentown East.
I would like to raise a point of elucidation.
Please be seated. Honorable Minister of Commerce, do you accept his point of elucidation?
No.
Please continue.
The natural energy policy was considered and prepared against a background where a high cost, including environmental costs, of fossil fuels-based electricity is regarded as a risk for the competitiveness of the Caymanian economy and the standard of living represents, and therefore an inhibitor of the social economic development. I am proud to be part of the government that cares about our people and our environment, not only just for today, but for long term. Therefore, I support private member motion number 2. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for Georgetown North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, in less than 20 years, this Youth Parliament government is expecting the people of Cayman to make an 80% decrease in all gas cars, not just cars, but all vehicles, including watercrafts. I won't even get into that on island. By the year 2040, we should have an 80% decrease. Considering the statistic-based motion that government has provided, it is clear that what government has set out to do is much easier said than done. Due to the lack of detail in this motion, it leaves the mind to wonder about many things, such as how this motion will affect the employment space and the education opportunities available. Madam Speaker, there are moving parts that support the mobility of government's objectives with this motion. I believe that this Youth Parliament government has overlooked many of these moving parts. Up until this point, this government has only provided statistics. However, they have not provided a solid solution. If this motion is the solution government is offering, it is not concrete enough to carry out. There are many cracks in this motion that will hinder the progress that this Youth Parliament government is trying to make. The very things that this Youth Parliament government is trying to solve will be set back by their failure to properly analyze the situation and come up with the best possible solution. I have reviewed this motion over and over, and all I have come up with are questions. What is government's plan in terms of providing opportunities through employment and education? Is this Youth Parliament government planning on creating vocational programs to prepare Caymanians to work on these new vehicles? Or is it that this Youth Parliament government will be importing overseas labor without giving Caymanians a fair chance of employment? Government's motion did not mention what will happen to those who work on diesel cars. Will they too be sacrificed? Are they expected to go back to school during these 20 years? And those who are lucky enough to gain the appropriate education will need experience in order to actually work on these cars. Quite frankly, the calendar which government is on seems to be much longer than 365 days a year. The time frame which has been provided is not sufficient for the people of Cayman to make such a drastic change. After these 20 years, then what? After the moratorium on vehicles has ended, people of Cayman are free to buy whatever they want, import whatever they want, and they sure will. For years, the greenhouse gas emissions have fluctuated, and after this moratorium ends, I am sure there will be a great rise similar to the one of 1998, which rose and did not go back down. Madam Speaker, I think the expectations of this Youth Parliament government are far too unrealistic and illogical to even be thought of. The goals of this motion are completely justified. Despite that, none of these goals will be accomplished if this Honorable Youth Parliament government does not take 5 steps back, reassess the situation, and come back with a detailed and practical solution. Thank you.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Deputy Leader of the Opposition, elected member for Bodden Town West.
Thank you again, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, while some might think a moratorium should be placed on the number of vehicles entering Cayman using diesel or gasoline, specifically private commercial, motorcycles, and watercrafts, others might think different and see a way better view. Imported in Cayman on a yearly basis so that there's an 80% reduction by the year 2040. Madam Speaker, can we be realistic? Not to bash our beloved island or to crash our goals and future, but Madam Speaker, there's an entirely different route that needs to be taken. Reported by Honorable Joseph Hugh, our past Minister of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure, he specifically said in November 2019 that the Cayman Islands may require 20,000 more licenses next year, which could lead to a total of 45 licensed vehicles on Cayman roads by the end of 2020. As this estimation was overlooked, a whopping 80%, 36,194 cars alone were licensed.
Point of order, Madam Speaker.
Point of order?
Do you have documentation to support that claim?
Deputy Leader of Opposition.
Madam Speaker, it was said verbally. All we have is a video of him saying it, and it's in our phone, so that's all. So no, we do not have documentation.
Well, if you do not have the documentation, I have to ask you to retract your statement.
That's perfectly fine. All right. Madam Speaker, quick question. If there's a moratorium on the vehicles entering Cayman using diesel or gasoline, and there's apparently supposed to be electric vehicles coming in, where would the old vehicles go? What would they be used for, and who will be in charge? To start, research shown from Cayman Compass in November 2019 showed the number of vehicles registered and brought in a month were on the rise. Roughly 400 vehicles monthly, an additional $1 million CI dollars allocated to the project of acquiring more plates. But is this really the problem? The bit of our lives, our home, our treasure, and our future. Why restrain one of our main income to see the island fail? Yes, this island is being engaged in carbon dioxide in the air through gas and diesel cars, but without the Cayman Islands government receiving the majority of its income from indirect taxation and import duties of 5 to 20% against goods in the island, how could we manage such a high-rising community? As shown, the ground amounts being put into vehicles storm each month, let alone the electric vehicles being seen out of the picture. With less than hands count of mechanics and repair shops in the Cayman Islands of today, the number of diesel and gasoline vehicles brought in by the moratorium won't be able to be serviced nor fixed in case of emergency. This will lead to several cars being sent back to the original buyers, usually in Northern America, Southern America, or the European region. So think about that, Madam Speaker. Think about that statement. I must send my car that I just bought 2 weeks ago back to China because they're not working and nobody can fix it? Come on. Now watercrafts, Madam Speaker. The citizens of Cayman Islands will now gradually have to move towards electric vehicles, having them serviced abroad, and being able to pay and handle themselves with electric vehicles. Madam Speaker, like said by the Deputy Speaker, it can't feed us, it can't give us nothing, it can't, where is it? Sorry. It can't feed us, it can't pay our bills, it can't fix the cost of living.
Madam Speaker, point of order. The Deputy Speaker didn't say that.
You can't have 3 people standing at the same time.
The Deputy Speaker didn't say that. The Honourable Minister of Commerce said that, so I'll ask you to retract that statement.
Madam Speaker, true or false, he not said that in his last speech?
It was the Honourable Minister of Commerce that said that.
My bad. Either way, like said, it can't feed people, it can't pay bills, and it can't fix the cost of living. So why? Madam Speaker, all this will do is add to the carbon footprint in the long run, not decrease it. An electric boat being driven on the water off a charged battery causing the production of water vapor, another greenhouse gas. Really? Come on. Where's the improvement? Take into consideration the thousands who can't afford this transition, the amount of time and effort being used, and the negative impact being left in a short span of 19 years. As the previous Deputy Governor, Arden McLean, said and stated in the years, it is time to cut down the vehicles entering the country. I agree with this statement, but I cannot agree with the low-level thinking used for this motion. Like said, I do not believe my conspiracy will be able to cope with this, as the minimum prices are $50,000 for an electric car. For a false vehicle that will end up doing the same thing. This will be our biggest carbon footprint contender. Imagine 65,000 electric vehicles charged every night with the high cost of installment rates and a very hot fuel rod being highly radioactive. The carbon footprint is just increasing. Instead, as a community, we should turn down this low-level thought and build firstly on the smaller steps that will help to better our environment. Think about recycling. Think about using different materials for different using different materials for different productions. We got to think about this. The electric vehicles won't do us anything. Thank you.
In regards to the quote you made to the Honorable Minister of Commerce, where you asked for documentation, I've reconsidered it and I'll allow it because you said it was in a video. Okay, I'll allow it. Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Deputy Governor.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to speak in favor of the private member motion number 2 of 2021, moratorium on the importation of vehicles in the Cayman Islands. My fellow colleagues have stated some very informative points, but I would like to further enlighten this youth parliament on the advantages this motion will have for the residents of the Cayman Islands. The Cayman Islands is one of the many low-lying countries in the Caribbean. GlobalSecurity.org reports that as a low-lying island with its highest point at 60 feet above sea level, Cayman's population is highly exposed. GlobalFloodMap.org reveals that a sea level rise of the absolute minimum of 0.29 meters would displace.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, can this member provide supporting documentation?
Right here. Some more. Just to make sure. Thank you.
Please continue.
Thank you. GlobalFloodMap.org reveals that a sea level rise of the absolute minimum of 0.29 meters would displace an estimated number of 17,282 residents. This brings about the question, how will Cayman cope with the changing climate, and how can we reverse this effect? Well, for starters, the Cayman Islands has already begun this task.
Honorable Leader
Madam
of
Speaker,
Opposition.
point of order, relevance. She is the deputy governor, the ex officio member responsible for the portfolio of the civil service. Can she please talk about the civil service?
This will affect the civil service because the civil service is our residents of the Cayman Islands, and if we can't breathe clean air or live properly, that does affect the civil service. Sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please continue.
Well, for starters, the Cayman Islands has already begun this task by joining the Paris Climate Change Agreement. For those who may not be aware, the Paris Agreement is a pact within the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change between 197 countries, which includes the Cayman Islands. Their primary focus is reducing greenhouse gas emissions, adapting to the impacts of climate change, and to provide financial assistance for developing countries affected by a changing climate. Secondly, a draft national energy policy was tabled back in 2013. This policy covers a period between 2017 to 2037. The policy focuses on exploiting renewable energy, promotes energy efficiency and conservation measures, and also supports energy security by reducing the reliance of imported fossil-based fuels. These, in turn, are catalysts to a sustainable environment where the residents of the Cayman Islands may continue to live and conduct business. The National Energy Policy comprises of 4 goals. These are knowledge and education, destination of excellence, energy security, and socioeconomic and environmental sustainability. The relevant action points are finding alternative fuel opportunities to replace diesel and developing infrastructure to accommodate more electric vehicles. Unfortunately, the Paris Climate Agreement goal of limiting global warming to 2 degrees below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels will not be enough. And if the sea levels continue to rise, my beloved Cayman Islands will wash away. So, Madam Speaker, the warnings from scientists have been crystal clear. Climate change is not a joking matter, and we must act now. It is distinctly stated in our motion that while the energy policy calls for a reduction in diesel use products, it does not, however, specify exactly how this should be accomplished. Madam Speaker, let me tell you, the opposition may try to twist the statement and claim that the government does not have a plan. But do not get this misconstrued. We most certainly do.
Honorable Leader of Opposition.
Madam Speaker, misleading the public. Point of order.
Honorable Deputy Governor, please retract your statement.
What exactly was I misleading?
Would you like to clarify?
She said that opposition is going to twist whatever she's saying.
I said may.
We may not.
Okay. That's why the word may is there. I didn't say you will. I said may, meaning it might happen.
Please continue.
Thank you. The plan entails fast-tracking the national energy policy and gradually increasing the number of diesel vehicles imported on an increasing ratio, starting at 1 to 9, until the target goal of 70% has been reached. Madam Speaker, this motion will also help obtain the needed agreed-upon reductions to 4.8 tons of carbon dioxide equivalent by 2030. There is currently no duty on importing an electric vehicle, which is a great advantage to the local communities. This is one of the many necessary actions the government has put in place to sustain the gradual change from diesel to electrically powered vehicles. In conclusion, there are many actions that the government has already put forward to protect our beautiful Cayman Islands from a rising climate, and we must push to resolve these issues immediately. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Do you accept?
I decline.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for Prospect.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. A moratorium is defined as a temporary ban on a particular activity, and the title of the motion, being a moratorium on importation of vehicles, refers to a temporary ban on importing petroleum vehicles. Madam Speaker, the motion mentions that that power generation emits the most carbon dioxide in our country, but the government wants to focus on the second largest emitter of CO2, vehicles. My question to the government is, why don't they focus on investing in renewable electricity production, such as wind and solar power stations? Currently, Madam Speaker, renewable energy only accounts for 0.9% of the electricity produced on island. The moratorium on importation of vehicles is only a very temporary solution to a massive environmental problem in our country. Madam Speaker, the government may be inclined to thinking that switching to electric vehicles will lower CO2 emissions. This is false, as the electricity needed to charge the electric vehicles still comes from burning oil, which still produces carbon dioxide. So if most petroleum vehicles are replaced with electric vehicles, the demand for electricity will most certainly increase, which would only result in the emission of more carbon dioxide. The results of this motion would essentially replace CO2 produced by vehicles to more carbon dioxide being produced by electricity production. With this motion, by focusing on the second largest emitter, this Youth Parliament government would be sending a message to the people of our country that they are inept of correctly prioritising their objectives. Madam Speaker, I regard this motion as a distraction to the public to mask the fact that the government does not want to address environmental issues in terms of renewable energy production, which is far more serious than the problem caused by petroleum vehicles. Madam Speaker, the National Energy Policy, I quote, mentions that 95% of diesel is used for electricity generation. The policy also aspires to accelerate the usage of renewable energy from the current 0.9% to 70% of the total electricity produced. Does the government have any plans at all to act on the objectives of the National Energy Policy? Because this motion will surely not satisfy the goals of our energy policy, but could result in worse CO2 emissions than the status quo. The National Resources Defense Council, an American environmental advocacy group, mentions on their website that electric cars are $19,000 more expensive than an average petroleum vehicles. Madam Speaker, this would put considerable stress on the financial situation of most families in our country to be able to afford electric cars. It is not morally correct or fair to cause financial burden and stress to the people of our country in order to achieve the goals of this motion. And the motion only calls to place a moratorium on private and commercial vehicles. If the government does not plan on switching vehicles, petroleum vehicles used by the government itself, what would be the message sent to the people of our country, Madam Speaker? When the people of our country are being forced to spend $19,000 more for an electric car, whilst the government enjoys the financial convenience and the benefits of using petroleum vehicles. Shouldn't the government lead by example and start by switching the petroleum vehicles used by government to electric vehicles first, before the people of our country are being forced to do so? Madam Speaker, if the government wants to dispose of 80% of petroleum vehicles by 2040, do they have a contingency plan put in place as to how petroleum vehicles that are currently on island are going to be disposed of? Or is it a case where the government is planning to add more rubbish to Mount Trashmore, as we Caymanians adorably call the dump, and maybe try to make it as tall as Mount Everest? Madam Speaker, I believe that this motion is a band-aid, which is a temporary solution to a massive problem in our country. This motion does not aim to meet the objectives of our national energy policy, nor the objectives of the motion itself, which is to make a significant impact on the level of carbon dioxide. Madam Speaker, the judgment of this Youth Parliament government appears to be clouded based on the structure of their motion. The clouded judgment places the Youth Parliament government in a position of being incompetent, in my opinion, Madam Speaker. Considering the motion they have presented in the Parliament today, which is...
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Okay, thank you. Which is a mere aspiration with vague objectives that possesses multiple aspects that this Youth Parliament government has failed to fully consider. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honourable Minister of Health, Environment, Culture and Housing.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support private member motion number 2 of 2021. There is a predominant threat to our island that has manifested itself into a disease, and that disease is carbon dioxide. This appalling disease increases the rates of lung cancer, along with asthma. According to the American Journal of Epidemiology, exposure to diesel and gasoline engine emissions and the risk of lung cancer, as one of their statements is, pollution from motor vehicles constitutes a major environmental health problem. This is a very serious issue, and I, as the Minister of Health, cannot stress this enough. Lung cancer is a horrible, horrible thing. As I continue, on my next point, asthma is another thing that increases with the carbon emissions from vehicles. According to West Shore Wellness, approximately 1 in 12 adults are diagnosed with asthma. That rate is even higher in children. Children of this island. 1 in 10 of them are diagnosed with asthma. That is incredible for an island that is one of the most economically, financially developed in the Caribbean. How can we allow this to happen? To continue, according to the CDC, another thing that is emitted from these vehicles is carbon monoxide, which is an odorless, colorless gas that can cause sudden illness and death and is found in the combustion of fumes produced by cars and trucks. Odorless, colorless gas. I'm going to repeat this, that can cause sudden illness and death. What I have seen through the opposition is that they only care, from what I can see, about finance, not about the health of the island. Would you rather save $19,000 or save a life from lung cancer and asthma? Another point I must stress, as the Minister of Health and the Environment, is raising carbon dioxide levels infect and impact coral growth. We've seen this in Australia with coral bleaching, the Great Barrier Reef, one of the biggest coral natural habitats is being bleached.
Elected member for Prospect.
Madam Speaker, does the Minister have supporting document to say that it affects corals? Thank you.
I do. I have this statistic by the BBC. And I have another one for the elected minister, elected member.
I'm sure the elected member for Prospect will agree with me that it's right there. So please continue.
Thank you. So as I continue, coral is one of our most beautiful features. Do tourists not come to this island to see the beauty of our island? To see the coral? Well, I think they do. I know they do. Going back to my point about asthma and...
Please be seated. Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Point of elucidation, Madam Speaker.
I do not accept.
Honorable Leader.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. Misleading the public. He is suggesting that tourists come now. In the past month, how many tourists have come?
Do they not come to this island? I know that the COVID disease has impacted our tourism dollars and how tourists come to this island. But on average, once we fix this, are they not going to return?
Madam Speaker, does the member know when exactly they will return to see our corals?
That is irrelevant to what we are discussing right now.
Madam Speaker, then why bring up tourists in total?
Because tourism was one of our biggest sources of revenue.
How is that relevant to what we're talking about now?
Madam Speaker, in relevance to what the Honourable Leader of the Opposition is requiring of the Honourable Minister of Health, he explained to you earlier that carbon dioxide is an effect on coral reef. Coral reef in itself are beneficial to the Cayman Islands for tourism. He does not have to specify the exact when tourism will come back, as it is irrelevant to what he's trying to say. Tourism has been in Cayman. It's one of the biggest financial aspect of Cayman. As to that should be suffice enough to answer your question.
Madam Speaker, didn't the same member say that opposition members are just so into the financial aspect? Why is he now bringing up the financial aspect?
Madam Speaker, asked and answered it relevant to this question. I'm not going to just bring up the financial aspect as he relates right back to him, and it's a tourism which contributes to carbon dioxide. If you are not happy with that answer, you can bring the question to the department and we will answer at a further date, but we will answer no more questions. Thank you.
Please be seated. Honorable Minister of Health, continue.
To continue, we are collectively increasing the rates of asthma and lung cancer in our families, in our communities, and in our children. My question overall to the opposition is, how can we do this? To our coral, to our families, what's next? Now, to conclude what I've said, I am prudently and strongly in support of this motion because I believe it will help people. It will help so many people from the terrors and the viciousness of asthma and lung cancer, which so many, hopefully, if we can get this motion through, we can avoid this. Thank you.
Elected member for Watertown East.
I'd like to raise a point of elucidation.
Honorable Minister of Health, do you accept?
I do not.
Please be seated. Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Minister of Finance and Economic Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to contribute to private member motion number 2 of 2021. The number of vehicles currently registered on Grand Cayman is 54,168. The number of vehicles registered to a person on database is 46,226. Out of this, there are 81 hybrid cars and 271 electric cars on island. As stated by the Honorable Minister of Commerce, there has been an increase in the number of electric and hybrid vehicles on island. But is that enough to put us where we need to be? Madam Speaker, is the opposition aware of the number of persons who suffer from lung cancer or asthma due to the pollution caused by diesel cars? Since electric cars don't emit smoke, they help lower the number of people who get asthma due to this. But Madam Speaker, that is just the tip of the iceberg. According to an article published by Cayman Compass, it states that during specific times of the day, air pollution tends to rise to levels noticeable by those who have respiratory issues.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, point of order. Relevance. Is this Minister of Environment and Health or is this Minister of Finance?
Your response?
I'm going to get to the financial aspect. I would just like to get my point through.
Continue.
During specific times of the day, air pollution tends to rise to levels noticeable by those who have respiratory issues, reaching occasional peaks that are harmful to everyone.
Elected member for Bodden Town East.
I'd like to raise a point of elucidation.
Do you accept?
I do not give way. He then goes on to say, the air is not even as clean as the inner city of London during rush hour. Madam Speaker, the population of London is approximately 9,426,000. The population of Cayman is approximately 65,000. Madam Speaker, that blows my mind. How can we, a dot on many maps, have more pollution from cars than some of the busiest areas in the world? We only have one factory and way too many diesel cars, while they have thousands of factories and many electric and hybrid cars. Madam Speaker, moving this motion will be the start of a better Cayman, a safer Cayman, not just for us, but for the generations that follows. As the Minister of Finance, I am concerned with how this will help Caymanians. Yes, it will be an expensive investment, but it will be cheaper and more beneficial to Caymanians in the future. According to Rubis Cayman Islands, they import approximately 1 million barrels of fuel into Cayman each year. The price for a barrel of fuel ranges between $50 to $70. So let's say one barrel costs $55 CI and 1 million of these are imported. That means $55 million is being spent on gas alone. Because of this, the gas price in Cayman is gonna cost an arm and a leg. 1 month ago, the average price for a gallon of gas was 3.539 KYD. Since then, there has been an increase in the gas prices. Many of us in this honorable house have to suffer with this increasing financial burden. Madam Speaker, the price for an electric car battery ranges from $227 per kilowatt to $1,000 per kilowatt. The average UK driver spends £1,225 and 52 pence per year on car maintenance and servicing. This includes the price of fuel, taking the car to be cleaned, and any repairs or breakdown recovery needed. That is $1,513.30 CI spent a year on average fixing a diesel car, which should be serviced every 6 months. According to motoringresearch.com, on an electric car, the particulate filter should be serviced every 3 years, brake fluid tests should be conducted every 2 years, and air conditioning tests should be done at between 2 and 6 years, and winter care should be held every 12 months. They also stated...
Elected member for Bodden Town East.
I'd like to raise a point of elucidation.
Do you accept?
No, I do not. They also stated, on average, it costs 23% less to run an electric vehicle than a petrol vehicle over a 3-year period. Madam Speaker, how can we, as elected members, help our people with this large financial strain that is caring for a diesel car? By helping them to make smart investments. And what would be a smart investment? Electric and hybrid vehicles. And how will we do that? By passing this motion. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Leader of the Opposition, elected member for Georgetown Central.
You can just put it on top of it, yeah. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to express my opinion on the motion before this Honorable Youth Parliament. I cannot support the motion for the following reasons. I'm very confused as to what government's motion is asking. Madam Speaker, their motion is a tongue twister. It boggles my mind how they have the time to sit down and write this mess when they have so many outstanding projects overdue. Bringing utter rubbish to be discussed, wasting our precious time. We literally have only one session out of the year for us to come together as youth parliamentarians to discuss issues and changes that we want, and this is what they bring to the House? Madam Speaker, the first whereas states, and I quote, "The world is constantly moving towards the use of renewable energy, which includes the reduction in use of diesel and gasoline to operate vehicles." From what I can understand is that they want a reduction of diesel and gasoline. I learned from a very young age that we need to practice what we preach. Madam Speaker, can government tell me how many government or service-owned vehicles that we have on the road that is without diesel or gasoline at this moment? Yet, they are telling our people what they need to do, and they're not following suit.
Madam Speaker.
Honorable Deputy
We
Speaker.
actually can. You can ask for the evidence.
Madam Speaker, was that a point of order, a point of elucidation? What was that?
Point of order. I have the evidence, provide what she's saying.
Madam Speaker, did I ask him for the evidence?
Honorable Leader of Opposition. He does have the information here, but you did not inquire.
No,
so
I didn't.
Please continue.
Madam Speaker, point of order.
Honorable Leader of Opposition, please be seated.
Although she did not ask for an inquiry, she's clearly misleading the House by saying the government does not do this or the government does not have the information to. So as a government member, I'm defending our government side to say we do have the information. So she can stop misleading the House and track that statement because you have the article that provides that says that she said that we don't have it.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition, I have the information here. So would you like to make a response or continue?
I would like to continue my speech because this member is just embarrassing himself. He needs to finish. He needs to hear me speak.
Madam Speaker, point of order, decorum.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition, please maintain decorum, but continue.
Madam Speaker, I am not saying that what government is trying to do is not a clever idea. I'm saying that there are so many questions that have not been addressed. During the time I have been sitting in my seat, so many questions. What about the servicing of electrical vehicles? What is the process? Who will be servicing these vehicles? Do we have a dealership on island that is willing to sell these types of vehicles? Motorbikes and boats, which are electrical and without diesel? Madam Speaker, has government forgotten about Cayman Brac and Little Cayman? Or are they suggesting that they're insignificant in this discussion? How many charging ports do our sister islands have? Or does government not plan to have charging ports on our sister islands? Do they believe that the amount of charging ports on Grand Cayman is enough to support their 19-year plan? If not, how many do they plan to have? In what districts do they plan to have them in? Madam Speaker, will there be a different licensing group for people who will be driving electrical cars, boats, bikes? How do they plan to get rid of the cars that they have on island now that are not electrical? Does government want total moratoriums for all vehicles or partial? Because their motion is contradicting themselves. Madam Speaker, how are the electrical cars going to get here? How are the old cars going to be transported to the various places as mentioned by the elected member for Cayman Brac East? If not by boats, I don't know what. Madam Speaker, their motion is filled with statistics. I congratulate them. They have mastered the art of copying and pasting statistics and sharing public record that, might I add, we all have access to in the House. This is just the surface of my many questions that have not been addressed, mentioned, or even hinted at. Madam Speaker, I am here as the voice of the people. I am here to let the government know that enough is enough. We need an actual plan. I want to see literal action. Moratorium is defined as a temporary probation of an activity. Is government suggesting that after we do this, things can go back to the way they were? Madam Speaker, as members of the opposition will address. Government is promoting more cars. They're only appealing to the people of the Cayman Islands that have money. And before anyone from government stands up and interrupt me and state that I am misleading the public, I would suggest that any member who aims to interrupt me sit down and listen to what I am saying. Madam Speaker, I would like to lay this supporting documentation on the table. There's some articles on EK Trade of how much these electrical vehicles cost. The government states in their motion, and I quote, that the top 3 products of carbon dioxide in the Cayman Islands are, number 1, power generation, number 2, cars, and number 3, buses. Yet, from sitting in the House today, all that they have touched on and talked about were cars, and 1 or 2 lines were about power generation. What about buses? Is government suggesting that everything that applies to cars applies to buses? Why include this in their motion if they will not be tackling power generation, which is classed as number 1, or buses, which is classed as number 3? Or was this just included to add to the length of their motion? Because in their minds, I believe that it's quantity over quality. It's numbers and statistics over quality of life. In conclusion, I stand by my statement that an 80% reduction of all motor vehicles, motorcycles, and watercraft is not achievable. Switching to electrical bikes, electrical boats, electrical vehicles that can only be imported once a year is not something I believe the public or my community will stand by. Government needs to go back to the drawing board and come again. This motion is not it.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the elected member for Boddentown East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Today, I arise to express my opinion on the motion before this honorable youth parliament. I cannot support the motion for the following reasons. Firstly, being that even this honorable youth parliament government does not know what they want. They have 2 be it now therefore resolved sections. One saying that we should temporarily ban every car, and another saying we should temporarily ban only gas cars. While this could temporarily assist with addressing the current issue of diesel and gas car importation, it doesn't outline any sort of plan to keep the electric cars that are brought into this island to stay on them due to their near complete lack of ability to be serviced on this island. Madam Speaker, the Youth Parliament, opposition, and government each had an opportunity to speak with former Minister of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure, Joseph Hugh, on February 6, 2021, to which I recorded an interview with on my phone, who made several comments on the state of electric vehicles in the Cayman Islands. He stated a benefit, firstly, stating, quote, $0 to $30,000 is 27.5% duty for regular cars. You could import a car under $30,000 with no duties for public transport electric vehicles, end quote. He then proceeded to elaborate on the idea that the Cayman Islands would not quickly be able to make the switch to electric vehicles just due to their outright cost, stating, quote, you have to give people an opportunity to plan, to budget, to save money, to make that transition. We have to give them 3 to 5 years. Think about that. We are trying to move towards getting this problem solved at this already stated by government slower than snail pace. But to have a delay like this just to solve our problem, this is unbelievable. Madam Speaker, does this honorable youth parliament government have a plan to just suddenly gather enough money to bring in equipment needed to service these vehicles? Former Minister Hugh himself stated that there has been training done to get Caymanians educated to service the electric vehicles. Yet there is no equipment here to perform the servicing itself, just due to the expense. He went on to say, quote, none of the manufacturers are willing to invest with their local dealers in the diagnostic equipment because it is completely different from a normal car. The dealers are not getting the support from the manufacturers at the moment. The government at the time were building a new equipment bay, and one of those will be equipped for electric vehicles, but none of the current importers or major manufacturers have invested locally in the ability to service and maintain them. So they are not importing them for you because they can't warranty them or service them for you. If something happens, you would need the diagnostic equipment to plug it in and say, this is what's happening. They have to send it off island to have that done because there is no equipment here. It is very expensive, and the average person would not be able to afford it, end quote. Madam Speaker, I would like to know how this honorable youth parliament government plans to suddenly make this process affordable for both local dealers and regular people, the citizens of Cayman, other than only giving them the small incentive to import electric vehicles by just placing very little to no import duties on them. Let's say hypothetically, Madam Speaker, what if a Japanese or even farther away country has an electric company that sells cars to the Cayman Islands to be imported? How do people manage to get around while waiting for their electric cars to be serviced as they're being shipped off? Minister Hugh himself that you could wait weeks, maybe even months on this process. Does this honorable youth parliament government assume that while these electric cars are being shipped off to get fixed, everyone just suddenly has the money to buy a rental car or a whole extra car on the side? This is defeating the purpose. Madam Speaker, do you think that Cayman is easily ready for such a change when there isn't even a proper public transportation system on this island? All we've got is that Georgetown shuttle. But what about someone like me who lives all the way in Bodden Town? I don't live in Georgetown.
No more public.
I don't want to have to rely on them public buses owned by private individuals, so they're really not public. That I've already nearly had multiple accidents with driving my own car on these roads. Madam Speaker, we need to make further preparations on this island in order for this moratorium to work. As right now, even a former minister of the actual government himself said that the average person just cannot afford this. We don't just all have money lying around to buy an electric car.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Okay, thanks. We don't all just suddenly have the money lying around to buy an electric car, nor do we suddenly have the money to just go get a rental car or an extra car on the side. Madam Speaker, I know that the Minister of Commerce, Planning and Infrastructure, elected member for Cayman Brac East, stated that yes, they'll have a way to get the cars off by selling them for parts or so on and so forth, right? But think about this. Think about it. Who is going to want at that time to get those kinds of diesel vehicles? What's to say all of the other countries we're going to sell them to are just going to want these parts if we're all trying to move towards a cleaner future? Madam Speaker, I respect this proposition, but it needs way more adjustments before it is even possibly going to count as a solution. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Does any other member wish to speak? I recognize the Honorable Deputy Speaker, elected member for Georgetown West.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, as I sit down here listening to the opposition, they remind me of a church service. Everybody tired after 1 o'clock.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
The relevance is that they're tired in their motion, and it's coming through on the government.
Madam Speaker, point of order again. Relevance. Can he please get to the point?
Madam Speaker, point of order. I refer to the point of order. This is point of order 35.5. No member, so a member shall be addressed by his electoral district or title. He said, she said he, not my electoral district.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, please continue and
Thank you.
Get to the point.
Madam Speaker, if a man can run a 24-mile marathon in over 22.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, can the member please get to the point?
Just continue.
If the Honorable Leader of the Opposition will allow me to get to the point, a man can run a marathon, a 24-mile marathon in over 2 hours. So why is it taking me 2 hours to reach from Easton to Georgetown at morning time traffic, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, the theme of the...
Please be seated. Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Point of elucidation, please.
Do you accept?
I do.
Is the member suggesting that an electrical car can move faster than a diesel car? Is he suggesting that an electrical car can fly over the traffic?
Perhaps we should allow him to finish his thought and then Or would you like to respond?
I know exactly what I'm saying. Madam Speaker, I didn't say anything about electric cars, or electric cars would be flying, or electric cars would be this. I'm simply saying in the current state of the Cayman Islands now, it is taking a man or woman over 2 hours to reach from East End to Georgetown. Whether it's flying, swimming, or kayaking, they're taking over 2 hours in a car to reach Georgetown.
Please be seated. Elected member for Bordentown East.
I would like to raise a point of elucidation.
And I would like to decline.
Okay. Please continue.
Madam Speaker, the theme of this Commonwealth is delivering a common future, not a common foolishness. So what the opposition is saying to me is completely, utterly makes no sense. Madam Speaker, as the elected member of West Bay Central stated, she said it would be inconvenient for Caymans to own an electric car. Madam Speaker, it is inconvenient now for me to be sitting out in 2 hours worth of traffic. It is inconvenient now for me to have to pay for all these insurance claims and all these traffic things when people are driving reckless. There are too many cars on the Cayman Islands, and a moratorium needs to be put to reduce this.
Elected member for Bordentown East.
I would like to raise a point of elucidation.
Do you accept?
I accept.
I would like to know from this honorable youth parliament government that what does all of this traffic have to do if they're only speaking on the fact that this moratorium is proposed? This isn't getting rid of anything. This is only stopping stuff from coming in. You're still going to have the traffic regardless. How does this government plan to reduce this traffic suddenly?
Madam Speaker, first and foremost, I reference that one to Standing Order 35.5. You have to refer to me as my title, the Honorable Deputy Speaker, elected member of Georgetown West. The second to that is I'm simply saying we have given options in our speech to how we're going to send away cars.
Point of elucidation, Madam Speaker.
I decline. As the Honorable Minister of Commerce says, he has a plan to send back the old diesel cars.
Honorable Leader of Opposition.
Point of elucidation, Madam Speaker.
I decline. Madam Speaker, moving on. Madam Speaker, moving on, the elected member of West Bay Central says that we are not ready for this motion. Madam Speaker, they are not ready for the motion because I am ready for this motion.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, the member is misleading the public. He's suggesting that the opposition is not ready for this motion.
Madam Speaker, I am not misleading the public. The honorable elected member of West Bay Central stated in her speech that we are not ready for this motion. Did she not? So I am not misleading the House. Your own members are. Your member came with it. Your member stated it, not me. Madam Speaker, moving on.
Elected member for Bordentown East.
I would like to raise a point of elucidation.
Do you accept?
Accept.
What is to say that when I spoke earlier that I am referring to we as this honorable youth parliament opposition instead of we as a nation?
Because when you spoke earlier, your points were very redundant to me, so I didn't take notes of them. Moving on to what I had to say.
Elected member.
I'd like to raise a point of elucidation.
Do you accept?
Decline. Getting back onto the West Bay Central, we asked for the reduction of diesel cars. We didn't ask the Cayman public to buy electric cars. But she went on to tell us about how it costs, how much it costs to maintain, how much it costs to fix. So,
Elected member for Bordentown East.
I would like to raise a point of elucidation.
I'd like to decline. Madam Speaker, she went on to tell us how much it costs to maintain, how much we need. Madam Speaker, we didn't ask for all this, but I'll be sure to come to her when I need a quotation on my car. Madam Speaker, moving on to elected member of Georgetown North. She doesn't believe this, that we can do this by 2040, which I can completely understand. But here's what. I will never argue with a small-minded person who has a position of power.
Point of order. You're the because the Honorable Deputy Speaker, elected member of Georgetown West, should not be using offensive language in the House.
Madam Speaker, I will withdraw my statement, but I will also reference that back to when the Honorable Deputy Leader of the Opposition called us fools at the end of his motion. So now this looks quite two-faced if the opposition does not want to accept the fact that what we're giving back, they can't take. Shows how incompetent they are for their motion.
Before you proceed, I would like to remind this Honorable Youth Parliament that we are indeed in Parliament. Please maintain decorum. Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Point of elucidation, Madam Speaker.
I decline. Actually, I accept.
Madam Speaker, is the member suggesting that he is not, quote unquote, a fool?
Madam Speaker, no, I am not quoting that I'm quote unquote a fool. I'm just making reference to what your deputy leader said.
Just to confirm, he's saying that he is not a fool.
I am indeed not a fool. Thank you for that. Madam Speaker.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, please be seated.
Is it possible to retract the statement of saying that he's not a fool and say that he's lackadaisical?
I will not retract that statement, Madam Speaker. Point of order, decorum.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, please continue.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, the elected member of Georgetown North, went on to make some mistakes in her motion, saying that we'd have to get someone else to fix the cars, and we'd have to do this, and etc. But she just gave a point for solving her issue itself. We can train these new Caymanians who are academically inclined to be working on these cars.
Elected member for Bodden Town East.
I would like to raise a point of elucidation.
I'd like to decline once again. Madam Speaker, the idea of
Elected member for Georgetown North.
The Honorable Deputy Speaker, elected member for Georgetown West, is using the opposition's points.
Madam Speaker, point of order. Is this a point of order, point of elucidation? She hasn't stated that yet.
Elected member of Georgetown North, can you clarify, please?
Point of order, relevance.
Relevance is to the motion. She claimed that we don't have that issue. We don't have any issue, any what's the word I'm looking for? I know. She's saying that we don't have any solving things for the problem at hand, and this is one of the solving things, to educate our young youths that are probably not academically inclined to be working on how these cars.
Elected member for Bodden Town East.
Point of order, I would like to ask if the Honorable Deputy Speaker, elected member of Georgetown West, has supporting documentation for this claim.
Supporting document for what claim?
That there is training to get Caymanians done, aside from my quote.
I did not say that we have trained. I said we can train our youth and Caymanians who are coming in.
And I would like to ask, where are you getting
Madam Speaker, that is a point for elucidation. With that being said, I decline. Madam Speaker, the deputy leader of the opposition says that he said in his own speech that one of the main incomes in the Cayman Islands, he said in his speech that one of the main incomes in the Cayman Islands is the importation of vehicles. Why is that so important, Madam Speaker? It shows where their head is at. It is not all about money, Madam Speaker. It's about health. It's about safety. It's about the future of the Cayman Islands, Madam Speaker, delivering a common future.
Elected member for Bodden Town East.
I'd like to raise a point of elucidation.
Do you accept?
No. So, Madam Speaker, now as you can see, the resistance towards the government is high. Almost every one of my members.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Misleading the public, Madam Speaker. He is suggesting that the opposition is resistant to whatever the government is bringing.
Your response?
I'm not resistant. I'm listening to what you have to say, but from what you're saying, you're sounding very persistent that you do not want this motion, which is understandable, but I have a right to give my claim as well as all the other government members here. What's your response?
You may.
As you clearly stated a couple seconds ago that you weren't listening to half of our speeches. That is what you said, right?
Yes. Yes, I wasn't listening to half of your speeches, but I was listening to some, so I'm making my reference for the some that I listened to. Madam Speaker, moving on to the elected member of Prospect, talking about a message that we're sending to the public. Madam Speaker, the only message we are sending to the public is that we care. We care enough to make a change now. The world is broken, it's the people who are broken. But if we can take a step to try to make a change, to try to heal, and to try to make a better Cayman, who is the elected member of Prospect to oppose this? Why would he oppose this? Why would he go against it? Simply for his own benefits, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, last but not.
Elected member for Prospect.
Madam Speaker, point of order, improper motives. I am not doing this for personal benefit.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, your response?
I'll retract that statement. Madam Speaker, last and not least, the chaos and confusion in the opposition. The Honorable Leader of the Opposition said,
Honorable Leader of Opposition.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. He is misleading the public. He is suggesting that our opposition is full of chaos.
Madam Speaker, I am not misleading the public. The Honorable Leader of the Opposition got up and said that the opposition and the government did not provide any points that says how we're going to solve this issue. But like I said earlier, the Minister of Commerce said how we're going to solve this issue. And to move on, another member in the opposition, the elected member of Bontown East, even answered her own question for her in her motion of how we're going to solve these issues. So who am I misleading the House? I'm not misleading the House, Madam Speaker. It came out their mouth and I said what I said. Madam Speaker, last but not least, I understand that there may be resistance towards this motion. I understand that this motion not be beneficial to you. No one's forcing anything. No one's telling anything. We're just simply asking that you, as an individual, a representative for the Cayman Islands and your district, make a change, a small change, a minuscule change, because a change has to happen. When no change is here, nothing will happen. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm finished with my speech.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Point of order, he was misleading the public. He's suggesting that this change of buying a new vehicle that costs approximately $60,000 is a small change. That is a huge change.
Deputy Speaker, your response?
Change as in mindset, not in cash. You see where their mindset is at, just cash. Change in the mindset.
We'll proceed. Does any other member wish to speak? Does any other member wish to speak? If no other member wishes to speak, I will ask the elected member for Georgetown South to exercise his right of reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. As I sat here today, I noticed a trend. Before I even talk about the trend I noticed, all I seem to hear is that the opposition does not care about this environment. And before you say anything about it, I mentioned in my speech.
Elected member for Georgetown South.
Point of order, Madam Speaker. He is misleading the public. He is suggesting that the opposition does not care about the public. And that is not the case, Madam Speaker.
Your response?
I mentioned in my speech that to deny this motion is to deny the needs of our people and our environment. And what the opposition has been doing today is denying this motion. Moving on. I noticed a trend that the opposition decides to close their mind in order to support these arguments that they present. For example, the elected member of West Bay Central implies that cost is more important than human lives. I stated this, and so did the Minister of Health. It's essentially,
Please take a seat. Elected member for West Bay Central.
Point of order, what is it called? Improper motives onto another member.
Would you like to, about you?
Yeah.
Your response?
I retract my statement. Yeah. Either way, the elected minister of West Bay Central did mention a lot. She spoke a lot about money. Money. What's really important? Because in my speech, in all of our speeches, we mentioned human lives and the importance, but she seems to be focused on the cost of electric cars more than anything else.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, point of order. He has said that he's going to retract his statement, and he's still saying it again and again.
Please move forward.
Next. The elected member of Georgetown North also implied that it is impossible to reskill, constantly mentioning what are we going to do with current mechanics. Mechanics of diesel cars can relearn. She calls our motion illogical and says we overlook parts when she herself overlooks practical things like reskilling mechanics. And to answer one of your questions, we do plan on offering training to reskill our diesel/gas car mechanics without sacrificing them.
Point of elucidation.
Do you
Madam Speaker,
accept?
point of order, this is a rebuttal. There's no point of elucidation in a rebuttal.
Continue, please.
As I was saying, we do plan to offer training to reskill these mechanics without sacrificing them, as the elected member of Bordentown West said, or importing overseas labor, as he also said. On that note, as the Honorable Minister of Commerce mentioned, we did say that cars can be... wow. This question seems to repeat itself often with the opposition. What are we going to do with the cars? What are we going to do with the cars? We have a plan. As the Honorable Minister of Commerce did mention, we plan to sell them as scrap metal or export them somewhere else. Simple as that. And in response to you as well, these mechanics can reskill. It's not an impossible thing. It's something that does happen. I'd also like to, for the elected member of Prospect, I would like to say that we do plan also on reducing importation on duty of solar panels and related technology. It would only make sense. To the elected member of Georgetown Central, it'd be daft to even assume that we would move a motion about electric vehicles without considering charging ports. We know that the charging ports on this island are not sufficient to support an entire island of electric cars. That was a really interesting point for you to make. Once again, constant narrow-mindedness with the opposition.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Madam Speaker, misleading the public. He's suggesting that I am narrow-minded, and I am not.
Elected member for Georgetown South, please avoid that sort of language.
I retract my statement. In addition, and lastly, how can she, the Honorable Leader of Opposition, say that we are focused on statistics and then assume or allude to statistics when the Honorable Deputy Speaker was making his speech? Madam Speaker, thank you.
The question is, be it now therefore resolved that this Honorable Youth Parliament considers placing a moratorium on the importation of all vehicles into the...
Madam Speaker, I would like for us to vote on the two be it now therefore resolved sections as two separate resolved sections.
Okay. Be it now therefore resolved that this Honorable Youth Parliament considers placing a moratorium on the importation of all vehicles into the Cayman Islands. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no?
No.
Madam Clerk, can we have a division, please?
Honorable Ryan Frick.
No. Aye.
Aye or no?
Aye.
His mic wasn't on. Honorable Matthew Houghton. Honorable Shira Dawkins. Aye. Honorable Johnny Lund.
Aye.
Honorable Sharika McPherson. Aye. Honorable Jamar McCoy.
Aye.
Honorable Kira Bodden. Aye. Miss Ariana Anglin. Aye. Mr. Jelani Hansen.
Aye.
Honorable Rion Porter.
Aye.
Honorable Leah Robinson.
No.
Mr. Jerry Allen Ezekiel. Mr. Andrew McLaughlin Jr.
No.
Mr. Shankar Palraj.
No.
Miss Sarah Sato Bodden. No. Miss Sierra Chong.
No.
Miss Shayla Reed.
The result of the division is 7 noes and 9 ayes. Okay. So, private members motion number 2 of 2021. Be it now therefore resolved that this Honorable Youth Parliament considers placing a moratorium on the importation of all vehicles into the Cayman Islands has duly passed. The question is now further resolved that this Honorable Youth Parliament considers placing a moratorium on the number of vehicles which uses diesel or gasoline, specifically private and commercial motor vehicles, motorcycles, and watercrafts, which can be imported into the Cayman Islands on a yearly basis, so that there is an 80% reduction of such vehicles by the year 2040. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no.
No.
Madam Clerk, can we have a division, please?
Honorable Ryan Frick.
Aye.
Honorable Matthew Houghton. Honorable Shira Dawkins.
Aye.
Honorable Johnny Lund.
Aye.
Honorable Sharika McPherson.
Aye.
Honorable Jamar McCoy.
Aye.
Honorable Kira Bodden.
Aye.
Miss Ariana Anglin.
Aye.
Mr. Jelani Hansen.
Aye.
Honorable Rion Porter. Aye. Honorable Leah Robinson.
No.
Mr. Jerry Allen Ezekiel.
No, thank you once again.
Mr. Andrew McLaughlin Jr.
No.
Mr. Shankar Palraj.
No.
Miss Sarah Sato Bodden.
No.
Miss Sierra Chong. Miss Shayla Reed.
The result of the division is 9 ayes and 7 noes. Private Members' Motion number 2 of 2021, moratorium on the importation of vehicles, has passed. That concludes the proceedings of this Honorable 14th Youth Parliament. I will now call on the Honorable Premier to move a motion for their adjournment.
Madam Speaker, I move the adjournment of this Honorable 14th Youth Parliament, signed die. Madam Speaker, before you put on the vote on the motion, I wish to express a vote of thanks to the wonderful sponsor, Harney's Attorneys at Law, the many people who helped us, like many people who supported us and taught us throughout the thing, Mr. Ian Tibbetts, Mr. James Whitaker, Mr. Joey Hugh, Mrs. Janae Whitaker, Mrs. Christian Augustine, Mr. Adrian McLean. I would also like to thank the Commonwealth Parliamentary Association members, Honorable Kenneth Bryan, Mr. David White, Ms. Barbara Connolly, and Mr. Alva Saku. I would also like to thank the House of Parliament staff, the clerk, Ms. Zena Maranchin, Mrs. Patricia Presley, Mr. Akame Lopez, Mrs. Mrs. Akame Lopez, Miss Nordra Walcott, and Miss Cynthia West, as well as all the parliamentarians present today and the guardians of said parliamentarians. Thank you all.
I recognize the Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On behalf of the opposition, I would like to express a vote of thanks. Youth parliamentarians, our most valued invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my privilege to have been asked to propose a vote of thanks on this occasion. I, on behalf of opposition and the entire Youth Parliament members, and on my own behalf, extend a very hearty thank you to you all. To all of the people mentioned, for your important work and sharing with us your findings, teachings, and opinions over the last couple of months, we are grateful to you all. We have learned so much, and we would like to let you know how appreciative we are of you. Thank you.
The motion is that this Honorable 14th Youth Parliament does stand adjourned, signed, die. Those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, no. The ayes have it. This Honorable 14th Youth Parliament now stands adjourned, sine die.